Chapter 231. As soon as Leng Shiqi returned to his stone room and put down his bag, he found that the bag containing 9 leaf moved slightly. He opened the bag first and saw that 9 leaf's body began to exude a layer of faint purple mist, and her head began to turn gently. She's going to wake up. No, she can't wake up here. Leng Shiqi understood that it should be the sign of 9 leaves awakening, but this was the pavilion branch, and there was a master of Gang's spirit realm like Feng Shamo, who could easily detect this demon chi. He didn't dare to delay, so he picked up the bag again and tore off a 2-star mission in the square of the pavilion branch. Then he left in a hurry without looking at it. Now everyone in the pavilion branch was very busy, and these killers usually didn't care about anything, so Leng Shiqi's action didn't attract any attention. Walking out of the pavilion branch, Leng Shiqi directly drilled into the depths of the Shadewind Ridge at full speed, found an extremely remote place, and sank into the ground. He was a little helpless at this time. He had just returned to the pavilion branch and didn't even have time to sit on the bench before he came out in a hurry again. Then he put 9 leaf down and sat cross-legged with his eyes slightly narrowed. While watching 9 leaves changes, he thought about how to explain to her about the Heaven Demon Soul Crystal. Gradually, the purple mist on 9 leaves' body became thicker and thicker, and her figure was faintly growing. Her scorpion tail grew a needle-like purple stinger, and her claws became sharper. Not long after, 9 leaf opened her mouth and spat out her 7th-rank demon core. Leng Shiqi saw clearly this time that there were 7 purple lines on the demon core, but most of them were very dim, and only 2.5 were flowing with purple light. And with the passage of time, the 3rd purple line became brighter and brighter. Finally, there was a buzzing sound in the air, and the 3rd purple line on the demon core was completely lit. At the same time, 9 leaves chi soared, and she was already a 3rd-rank demon beast. At this moment, 9 leaf had also opened her eyes. Her mouth moved and she kept the purple-veined demon core. She looked at Leng Shiqi and said, "I helped you break through to the spirit pulse realm, and you helped me recover to the rank 3 demon beast. We are even now. I don't sense any demonic aura nearby." "Where is this?" Leng Shiqi replied, "This is the Shadowwind Ridge of Donglin County." "I do have some impression of Donglin County, but I've never heard of Shadowwind Ridge." "Take me out for a walk," 9 leaves said with a curious look in his eyes. Leng Shiqi didn't expect 9 leaf to make such a request. He also noticed that 9 leaf was a little different from before. When they were still in the demonic miasma mountain range, 9 leaf had a bitter and vengeful look on her face. She couldn't wait to get Leng Shiqi to help her collect a large number of rank 2 Yao cores. Now that she had recovered to the strength of a rank 3 demon beast, her resentment seemed to have faded a little, and her tone was much more relaxed. However, Leng Shiqi said with some difficulty, "Senior 9 leaf, this Shadowwind Ridge is extremely desolate and there are few people. There's nothing to see." 9 leaf actually jumped up, "I don't care. Anyway, you have to take me to a place with a lot of people. I haven't left the demonic miasma mountain range for hundreds of years. Now that I finally have a chance, I must take a look around." When Leng Shiqi saw this, he wiped away his non-existent cold sweat. Now, he even began to wonder if 9 leaf had been possessed by someone else. How could there be such a big change? But when he heard that 9 leaf had never left the demonic miasma mountain range for hundreds of years, he understood. The demonic miasma mountain range, to put it bluntly, was actually a group of demon beasts raised by spirit cultivators. So what if you are a rank 7 great demon? If you still have to obediently stay in the mountain range, you might even suffer an unexpected disaster. Thinking of this, Leng Shiqi took out the mission that he tore off earlier. The reason why he took the next mission was to find a reason for himself to suddenly leave. Since he had already taken the mission, he might as well do it. At the same time, he could also bring 9 leaf around. However, with his current spirit pulse realm cultivation, it was a bit of a waste for him to take on a 2-star mission. Unfortunately, although he was in the spirit pulse realm, he was not a blood-clothed assassin and could not take on a higher-level mission. He opened the mission information and raised his eyebrows. This mission was to assassinate the young master of Stone Translation City's Lin Hui Dojo, Lin Ing. Unknowingly, Nine Leaf had climbed onto Lin Shiqi's shoulder and leaned over. She said in surprise, "So you are an assassin." Lin Shiqi did not hide and nodded, "That's right, I am a black-clothed assassin from the Blood-Clothed Pavilion." Blood-Clothed Pavilion? One of the 7 absolutes of the world, the Blood-Clothed Pavilion? That's right. Nine Leaf raised a claw and rubbed her chin in a human-like manner. As expected, your background is not ordinary. Your status in the Blood-Clothed Pavilion is not low. Ling Shiqi coughed dryly and said, "No, I am just an ordinary disciple in the branch." Naturally, he could not reveal the matter of the Blood Fog Island. "You, an ordinary disciple?" Nine Leaf obviously did not believe it. "No, Blood-Clothed Pavilion, Blood-Clothed Pavilion. How can you be a black-clothed assassin?" Ling Shiqi felt that Nine Leaf had suddenly become 100,000 wise, but he still patiently explained, "The spirit cultivators in the spirit transformation realm in the Blood-Clothed Pavilion are all black-clothed assassins. Only those who break through to the 4th realm of celestial being are qualified to be promoted to Blood-Clothed assassins." Then Ling Shiqi did not wait for Nine Leaf to ask and continued, "Although I am in the spirit pulse realm now, I still lack a lot of sect contributions to be promoted to Blood-Clothed assassin. Doing missions is the way to get sect contributions." "I see. Your assassination target, Lin Ing, is just a spirit cultivator who has just entered the pure spirit realm. Is this worth your time?" Ling Shiqi replied, "That's because I found that Senior Nine Leaves seemed to be waking up, and there were several masters in the spirit gang realm in the branch. I was afraid that they would notice Senior's aura, so I casually took a mission." "Well, you've thought it through." Nine Leaves' tone contained a bit of praise. "That's good too. Let's go to the Stone Translation City for a stroll." Ling Shiqi realized that no matter which world it was, women's pursuit of the word stroll was the same. But now there was another problem: where should he put Nine Leaf? Now that Nine Leaf's body was the size of a small millstone, of course he could not carry it with him. Moreover, she had already woken up, so he could not wrap it up casually. So he said, "Senior Nine Leaf, your identity is indeed a bit inconvenient to show up." "That's true. After all, this is the territory of you spirit cultivators. How about this: my soul will leave my body and attach it to your spiritual space. You can put my body away." When Ling Shiqi heard this, he suddenly panicked. However, before he could say anything more, a green shadow emerged from Nine Leaves' body and entered between his eyebrows. Immediately, Nine Leaves' roar sounded in his mind, "Ling Shiqi, what did you do?" Chapter 232. When Ling Shiqi heard Nine Leaves' angry roar, he could not help but smile bitterly. He closed his eyes, and his consciousness also entered the spiritual illusion world. At this time, Nine Leaves' soul body had already transformed into the human form of a beautiful woman, but it was just a faint green phantom. At first glance, it was a little scary. When she saw Ling Shiqi's soul body appear, she immediately pounced over. Ling Shiqi immediately felt his soul body sway as if it could collapse at any time. But at this moment, above the spiritual illusion world sky, that faint green light curtain suddenly struck down with a green lightning bolt. Nine Leaf was startled and retreated. Only now did she notice that Ling Shiqi's spiritual space was very different from what she knew. Her beautiful eyes swept over the entire spiritual illusion world, and gradually, the shock in her eyes increased. She murmured, "This is a spiritual space? Impossible." Ling Shiqi took the opportunity to hurriedly say, "Senior Nine Leaf, Junior also doesn't know what's going on. The Heaven Fae Soul Crystal suddenly ran into my spiritual space, and then the spiritual space became like this." Nine Leaf ignored him, but continued to observe the spiritual illusion world with a grave expression. Ling Shiqi could only wait by the side obediently, but he was a little nervous in his heart, afraid that Nine Leaf would really see through something. After a while, Nine Leaf sighed faintly and said, "Alas, the Heaven Fae Soul Crystal has already fused with your spiritual space and become the core of your spiritual space. In other words, you've already completely refined the Heaven Face Soul Crystal. Refined the Heaven Face Soul Crystal? Ling Shiqi asked in puzzlement. That's right. I've had the Heaven Face Soul Crystal for many years, but I've never found a way to refine it. It turns out that the correct refining method is to fuse it with the spiritual space. You actually inexplicably did it, kid. As expected, your fortune is profound. Ling Shiqi also secretly sighed in relief. Nine Leaves' imagination filled in the gaps, saving him from giving a random explanation. He said respectfully, "Many thanks for Senior's understanding." Nine Leaves snorted coldly and said, "Humph. Fortunately, I'm proficient in the Tao of the Soul, so I can still absorb the power of the Heavenly Face Soul Crystals after entering this place. However, you owe me a favor this time." "As you command, Senior." Nine Leaves said impatiently, "Okay, keep my body safe. I can see the outside world even if I stay here. Hurry up and go to Translation City." Ling Shiqi thought that he had finally passed this stage, but he could still feel that Jiuli was angry. He immediately returned his consciousness to his main body, stored Nine Leaves' physical body into the system space, and set off for Translation City. On the way to Shi City, in order to make his life easier in the future, he even passed by Shenyang City. He told Nine Leave about what he had seen, heard, and done in the past. He changed the main character and told it to Nine Leave. This included the Three Sabres gang, Chinko Hall, the City Lord's Mansion's mutual deception, and the matter of Marquis Boiwan's tomb. While Nine Leave listened, he also gave pointers and felt that this and that should be this and that. Ling Shiqi actually felt like he was coaxing a child. The current Shenyang City could be said to be in chaos. The City Lord's mansion had withered, and the various small gangs in the city were fighting endlessly. The people were miserable. They didn't walk fast, and it wasn't until the fourth day that they arrived at Translation City. Translation City was completely different from Shenyang City. Because the fight for the illusory palace token was imminent, a large number of spirit cultivators had gathered here. It could be considered a small gathering. With such a lively scene, Nine Leave became excited. He let Ling Shiqi take him around the entire Translation City until late at night when there was no more movement on the streets. At night, Ling Shiqi was in an inn. He asked Nine Leave, "Senior, do you know about the illusory spirit secret realm?" Nine Leave replied, "Illusory spirit secret realm? I've never heard of it. Is it related to the illusory palace token I heard during the day? Soon, Donglin County will open the illusory spirit secret realm. The illusory palace token is the certificate to enter the illusory spirit secret realm." Ling Shiqi told him everything he knew about the illusory spirit secret realm. "Oh, I'm not interested. I can't enter anyway." Nine Leave was not interested in the illusory spirit secret realm. Ling Shiqi was stunned when he heard this. He remembered that he had thought the same thing a few days ago. "Senior, can you enter in your current state?" "Of course not. According to what you said, the secret realm is no longer very stable. The highest level a spirit cultivator can enter is the spirit pulse realm. In fact, the upper limit that the secret realm can accommodate is not the spirit power of a spirit cultivator, but the life level of a spirit cultivator." Life level? He seemed to have heard this word somewhere before. Whether it's you spirit cultivators or the demon clan, every time you level up, your life level will increase. It's just that you don't know about it. Although I'm only a rank 3 monster, my life level is still rank 7, so even if I use the method of soul possession, I won't be able to enter. Ling Shiqi nodded his head lightly. He was happy and bitter at the same time when he received such an answer. In the future, when he entered the illusory spirit's secret realm, Nine Leave would not be able to follow him in. Then, he would not have to worry about exposing his secret, but at the same time, he would lose a strong ally like Nine Leave. He knew that those who could enter the illusory spirit's secret realm were all spirit pulse realm spirit cultivators, but the first level of the spirit pulse realm and the 9th level of the spirit pulse realm were both in the spirit pulse realm. Ling Shiqi had a consummate skill that allowed him to cross a small realm to deal with spirit pulse realm's 2nd and 3rd level spirit cultivators. He was confident. But how could he deal with those spirit pulse realm spirit cultivators in the late stage? Could it be that he could only escape? When Nine Leave was a rank 2 monster, she was able to control more than 10 rank 3 monsters at the same time. Now that she was a rank 3 monster, ordinary spirit pulse realm spirit cultivators were definitely not her match. If Nine Leave was here, then his journey in the secret realm would be much smoother. However, he was not disappointed that Nine Leave could not enter. He just needed to collect some divine illusion spirit stones. If there were any other gains, then it would be a profit. At this time, Nine Leave asked, why are you so concerned about this illusory spirit secret realm? Because in a while, I will enter the illusory spirit secret realm. Leng Shiqi explained. So that's how it is. You are worried that you are not strong enough. Nine Leave instantly saw through Leng Shiqi's thoughts. She continued, you are a bit belittling yourself. You have a lot of tricks up your sleeve, and your mental power is extremely strong. Before you enter the secret realm, you can cultivate some spirit techniques or illusions that can increase your strength in a short period of time. Leng Shiqi was slightly stunned. He did not expect Nine Leave to give him pointers, and what Nine Leave said happened to be something he had neglected. Leng Shiqi had been working hard to fuse spirit techniques for a long time. During this time, he had been thinking about how to fuse carnage with the demon pattern, but he had forgotten to develop his powerful mental power. Nine Leave's words allowed him to find a path. He sincerely said, "Thank you, Senior, for your guidance." Chapter 233. The next day, Leng Shiqi continued to wander around the city with Nine Leave. He was also looking for information about Lin Hui martial arts dojo and found some clues. Shi City was different from Shangyang City. There were no gangs here, but there were many martial arts dojos. These martial arts dojos were basically set up by individual practitioners. They did not have any masters, nor did they pass down any powerful techniques or spiritual techniques. However, the business of these dojos was always booming. That was because the dojos could help you get started and guide you in your techniques or spiritual techniques. What loose cultivators lacked the most was not just cultivation methods and spiritual techniques, but also the guidance of others. Even if you happen to stumble upon a decent cultivation technique, but it's difficult for you to cultivate it, what's the use of that? In the dojos, as long as you paid a certain amount of money, you could receive guidance. Different dojos were good at different aspects, so there would always be one that was suitable for you. When Leng Shiqi heard this, he was secretly amazed at how good they were at doing business. This was a business without any cost. There were 3 most famous and powerful dojos in Shi City, and Lin Hui Martial Arts Dojo was one of them. At the same time, Lin Hui, who was in the spiritual pulse realm, was also a popular candidate for the illusory palace token. Leng Shiqi's mission was to assassinate Lin Hui's only son, Lin Ying. Everyone knew that Lin Hui loved his only son very much. At this critical time, someone wanted Lin Ying dead. No one would believe that it had nothing to do with the illusory palace token. He guessed that the employer might be one of the other 2 dojos, Li Clan Dojo or Su Clan Dojo. After finding out the location of the Lin Hui Martial Arts Dojo, Leng Shiqi walked around the dojo and opened up the map of the dojo. Nine Leave said, "Is there a need to go through so much trouble? With your strength, even if you rush in and kill Lin Ying, you can still escape unscathed." Leng Shiqi shook his head and said, "I can do that, but aren't you curious? Lin Hui is one of the most popular candidates for the illusory palace token, so why would someone want to assassinate his son? If his son is dead, will Lin Hui not participate in the fight for the illusory palace token? Furthermore, if I kill Lin Ying, I have to go back and submit the mission." No, I'm not done yet." Leng Shiqi chuckled inwardly. This great demon who had lived for hundreds of years still had a childish attitude. Then, Leng Shiqi closed his eyes and opened them again. His eyes instantly turned green and white. Byakugan, open. With the help of the Byakugan and the Hand of Earth, Leng Shiqi was able to sneak into the Lin Hui dojo in broad daylight without anyone noticing. In a secluded courtyard of Lin Hui Martial Arts Club, a servant carried a small lunch box into the courtyard. Ha! Ha! As soon as he entered the courtyard, he heard shouts coming from the courtyard, but he was already used to it. He walked straight to the stone table in the courtyard and put the lunch box on it. Only then did he turn his head to look at the boy who was still hitting the wooden stake. The young man looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. His entire body was soaked in sweat. Even the ground was wet with sweat. However, the young man continued to hit the wooden stake resolutely. He did not even notice the servant coming in. The servant's eyes revealed some ridicule as he muttered softly, "Trash will always be trash. What's the use of working hard? And wasting so many resources for nothing? He's just lucky." After he finished speaking, he walked out of the courtyard. What he did not know was that under the shadow of the corner of the courtyard, there was a person hiding. "Senior 9 Leave, what do you think of Lin Ying's situation?" Ling Shiqi asked. 9 Leave did not answer immediately. After a few breaths, she said, "It's a little strange. Lin Ying's cultivation talent is actually not bad. He opened up his sea of qi and reached the pure spirit realm 2 years ago. However, there is a strange force in his body that is constantly devouring his spirit energy. So no matter how hard he cultivates, he will always be at the first level of the pure spirit realm." Ling Shiqi nodded when he heard this. He could also see that there was a problem with the spirit energy in Lin Ying's body through the supercilious eyes, but he could not see it so thoroughly. He said, "In other words, he has been cultivating hard for the past 2 years and consumed a lot of resources. The spirit energy he cultivates has actually been plundered." "You can say that," Ling Shiqi said thoughtfully. As a result, he ended up with the title of trash. He broke through to the pure spirit realm 2 years ago, which is considered pretty good among loose cultivators, so he should have been flattered by quite a few people. From a high place, he suddenly fell into the abyss. It's rare that he can still maintain such a firm will to cultivate. 9 Leaves said curiously, "What, you're a soft-hearted killer?" "That's not it, I'm just a little curious." "Senior, can you see where the power in his body comes from?" 9 Leaves said after sensing for a while, "It seems to be the ring on his right index finger." "Oh." Ling Shiqi's face showed a look of interest. From a little genius to trash, being discriminated against by others, and having a ring that absorbs his spirit energy? Was there an old grandpa hidden in this ring? The more Ling Shiqi thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible, so he decided to test it out first. Immediately, Ling Shiqi quietly floated up to the ground. He stretched out his finger and lightly pointed, sending out an invisible sword qi. This pulse unblocking sword qi was used with his spirit pulse realm cultivation. If it hit, it would definitely take Lin Ying's life. He was testing. If it was as he expected, then Lin Ying was hiding a secret and would definitely not die so easily. Of course, if he guessed wrong, he would complete the task. Anyway, he did not lose anything. The invisible pulse unblocking sword qi tore through the sky and shot towards Lin Ying's back. However, just as the sword qi was about to reach him, a gray gas suddenly rose from Lin Ying's back. The gray gas wrapped the pulse unblocking sword qi and the sword qi dissipated on its own. Sure enough. At this time, Lin Ying stopped and turned his head to look. He seemed to have felt a burst of air behind him, but when he turned his head, there was nothing. 9 Leaves said solemnly, "He has a part of a remnant soul in him." Remnant soul? It must be a secret escape technique used by some powerful cultivator before he died. He sealed a part of his remnant soul in the ring and waited for the opportunity to find a way to be reborn. Ling Shiqi could not help but be surprised. Reborn? Is it so mysterious? 9 Leaves said disdainfully, ignorant. The means of those powerful cultivators are far beyond your imagination. However, there is only a remnant soul in Lin Ying's ring. There is no possibility of it being reborn. He is very likely to use Lin Ying to find other remnant souls and then plot to be reborn. Unfortunately, he met me. Chapter 234. Ling Shiqi, help me lure him out and let me swallow him. After this is done, I will lend you a portion of my power before you enter the illusory spirit's secret realm. 9 Leaves' words rang in Ling Shiqi's mind and instantly moved him. There was only a month left before he entered the illusory spirit's secret realm. In such a short period of time, he believed that it was impossible for him to make a breakthrough in his cultivation. In the spirit pulse realm, not only did a spirit cultivator have to accumulate a large amount of spirit energy, but if he wanted to break through to the second level of the spirit pulse realm, he had to open another spirit pulse. In a short period of time, his cultivation would not be able to advance any further, and there were many people with higher cultivation than him in the illusory spirit's secret realm. If he had a portion of 9 Leaves' power, he would have some confidence. Ling Shiqi immediately agreed as thoughts flashed through his mind. How should I lure him out? Also, does the employer know about this? Will he get involved? At night, the exhausted Lin Ying walked into the bedroom. After he tidied up, he sat on the bed and prepared to cultivate. However, suddenly, Lin Ying's eyes widened. On the chair opposite him, there was a figure sitting there at some unknown time. Lin Ying was just about to shout when the other party spoke. It was an old voice. If you want to die, just shout. Lin Ying immediately covered his mouth. Although he was young, he was not stupid. Since the other party could enter his room without alerting anyone, he could naturally kill him before anyone arrived. Especially since he had experienced countless human emotions in the past 2 years. At this moment, he forcefully suppressed the fear in his heart and said, "Who are you?" Ling Shiqi said indifferently, "I am the person who is here to kill you." You. Lin Ying was shocked, but in the next moment, he could not speak because a large hand had already grabbed his neck. At this moment, Lin Ying also saw that the person who grabbed his neck was an old man. Ling Shiqi said gloomily, "The heavens have the virtue of cherishing life. This old man does not want to commit murder, but you have provoked someone you should not have provoked. As the saying goes, every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Don't blame this old man when you're down there." Lin Ying grabbed Ling Shiqi's arm with both hands and struggled. Unfortunately, Ling Shiqi had also cultivated the 9 Nether Mageweth and had absorbed a large amount of spiritual energy from the spirit spring to refine his body. After breaking through to the spirit vein realm, he had undergone a complete transformation, and his body's strength had increased by another level. Even if he only used the strength of his body, he was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the late stage of the pure spirit realm. Lin Ying was naturally wasting her energy. Lin Ying knew that she could not escape from Ling Shiqi. She said, "Li Wan. Did Li Wan send you to kill me?" Ling Shiqi found the name familiar. He thought for a moment before remembering that Li Wan was the curator of the Li family dojo. This might be a conflict between the two schools, but Ling Shiqi was not interested in this. He slowly increased the strength of his hand. Lin Ying's face turned red, her eyes widened, and blue veins popped out. She was about to be strangled to death by Ling Shiqi. However, the thing that Ling Shiqi was looking forward to did not appear. Still not coming out? Ling Shiqi snorted. He formed a sword with his fingers and pierced Lin Ying's abdomen with invisible sword qi. Inside, was his qi. At the same time, he thought, if you still don't come out, you can wait for the next host when he is crippled. Sure enough, just as the sword qi was about to pierce through Lin Ying's qi, the gray gas appeared again and covered Lin Ying's entire body. At the same time, Ling Shiqi also felt an evil energy pushing him away. Ling Shiqi's expression froze. The force just now was not very strong, but it was still the power of the spirit vein realm. When the gray qi dissipated, Lin Ying was still standing in the same place. However, his eyes had turned gray, and there was a trace of resentment in them. Ling Shiqi pretended not to know and exclaimed, "What are you?" Lin Ying said stiffly, "Scram, or die." At the same time, 9 Leave also spoke in Ling Shiqi's spiritual world, "Don't let him possess Lin Ying's body. Find a way to force him out." Ling Shiqi's mind moved and waves of extremely cold air spread out from his feet. Suddenly, the entire room was frozen. The temperature in the room plummeted, but it did not affect the 2 people in the room. Lin Shiqi did this because he was afraid that the old grandpa would run away. Then, Lin Ying moved her hands and quickly formed a spiritual seal. A cloud of gray smoke formed an oval-shaped formation in front of him, and streams of evil gray smoke swarmed towards him. Lin Shiqi pulled out the Qing Lin saber from his waist and slashed. Hundreds of light green saber lights instantly fell down like torrential rain. The saber lights cut through all the gray gas. Countless waves of energy surged out and broke the ice. Lin Ying prepared to do something again, but Lin Shiqi did not want to give her another chance. He held the Qing Lin saber's hilt and the blade drew a full green moon in front of him. The full green moon formed by the saber lights looked magnificent, but it was filled with unimaginable sharpness. Full moon light slash. The saber lights tore through the night and tore apart Lin Ying's array. The endless saber lights were about to completely devour Lin Ying. At this moment, Lin Ying's body suddenly went limp. Then a cloud of gray gas appeared and formed the appearance of a ferocious old man. The old man's face was filled with evil. He opened his mouth and was about to say something, but at this moment, a green shadow suddenly jumped out from between Lin Shiqi's eyebrows. That was Nine Leaves' spiritual body. The old man was shocked when he saw Nine Leaf, but the next moment, Nine Leaf turned into a cloud of green light and swallowed him. According to what Nine Leaf said, the old man was just a remnant soul of an expert, and Nine Leaf was a genuine level 7 great demon. In front of Nine Leaf, the old man's remnant soul could not resist at all and was completely swallowed by Nine Leaf. Nine Leaf's spiritual body turned into a human form again. She wiped the corner of her mouth and burped, but she looked a little sleepy. Then, she returned to the spiritual illusion world. Lin Shiqi's full moon light slash also chopped off Lin Ying's head, but the saber lights did not slow down and cut through the ice layer and collapsed the wall. A green full moon suddenly rose from Lin Ying's small courtyard. Countless sharp saber lights wreaked havoc and in an instant, the entire small courtyard was destroyed beyond recognition. Lin Shiqi picked up Lin Ying's head and wrapped it up. He secretly sighed that Lin Ying was also a person with a hard life. According to his original trajectory, he might not become a famous expert in the future, but it would not be a problem for him to inherit the Lin Hui Martial Arts Club. It could be considered as a foundation for him to establish himself. However, ever since he got that ring, he was destined to have a bad ending. Even if he did not die in the hands of Lin Shiqi today, he would die in the hands of that remnant soul in the future, and it might be even worse. Such a big commotion in Lin Ying's courtyard quickly attracted a large number of people in the martial arts club. Especially the curator, Lin Hui. Lin Hui was a very serious person, but this was the courtyard of his most beloved son, so he was naturally the most concerned. It was rare for him to be worried and uneasy as he rushed here as fast as he could. However, when he hurried over, all he saw was Lin Ying's headless corpse. Lin Hui rushed in and picked up Lin Ying's corpse. As the saying goes, men do not cry easily, but this father who established the Lin Hui Martial Arts Club instantly burst into tears. After a while, he muttered weakly, just you wait. Father will avenge you. Chapter 235. Lin Hui carried Lin Ying's headless body and walked out silently. The crowd silently opened up a path for him to pass through. They were basically servants and apprentices of the martial arts club. They all knew that Lin Ying was extremely important to Lin Hui, even more important than the martial arts club. Otherwise, he would not have tried his best to find countless elixirs for Lin Ying to help him solve his cultivation problems. But now, Lin Ying was dead. This was his only son, his only hope, and now he was dead. But Lin Hui did not go crazy or roar. He just carried Lin Ying out of the small courtyard without saying a word. To everyone's surprise, Lin Hui's aura was like a volcano about to erupt. In an instant, the spiritual energy within a few feet of him flowed into his body like a whirlpool. At this moment, Lin Hui broke through to the 7th level of the spiritual pulse realm in a state of extreme sorrow. But Lin Hui did not show any joy. He still carried Lin Ying and walked away. No one knew where he was going. Lin Shiqi, who was hiding in the dark, saw all of this. He whispered to himself, if Lin Hui did not give up fighting for the illusory palace token, we might meet again in the illusory spirit's secret realm. However, Nine Leaf did not pay attention to him at this time. Because Nine Leaf fell into a deep sleep after devouring the old man's remnant soul. Before Nine Leaf fell into a deep sleep, she said that she would not sleep for too long this time. She would wake up tomorrow at the latest. She also told Leng Shiqi to wait for her to wake up and watch the fight for the illusory palace token. In fact, Leng Shiqi's task was now completed. He planned to return after the fight for the illusory palace token came to an end. Now that he saw Lin Hui's unexpected breakthrough, he seemed to have seen the outcome. Because according to the news he heard, the other two club masters were only at the 6th level of the spiritual pulse realm. Originally, these three people had the same cultivation and were the most advantageous competitors for the illusory palace token. However, Lin Hui's breakthrough broke the original pattern and also broke the suspense. Leng Shiqi thought to himself, if my employer knows about this, will he regret it? In his opinion, the reason why his employer wanted to kill Lin Ying was that he did not know about the old man's remnant soul. He simply wanted Lin Ying's death to affect Lin Hui's emotions and thoughts. Thus, Lin Hui would not be able to display his full combat strength or give up the fight for the illusory palace token. However, it was obvious that the employer had underestimated Lin Hui. Moreover, now that Lin Hui had broken through to the 7th level of the spiritual pulse realm, he would not easily give up the fight for the illusory palace token. Thinking of this, Leng Shiqi shook his head and returned to the inn. On the afternoon of the second day, Nine Leaf woke up. After Nine Leaf woke up, he immediately said to Leng Shiqi, the remnant soul I absorbed is not simple. Leng Shiqi's interest was piqued. To be called not simple by Nine Leaf, that person must not be weaker than her. Nine Leaf said, I devoured a wisp of this person's remnant soul, which increased my soul power by quite a bit. I also absorbed a portion of this person's fragmented memories. This person is an evil sect spirit cultivator from hundreds of years ago. In terms of cultivation, he is comparable to me. Even though Leng Shiqi had guessed it, he could not help but feel a wave in his heart. Moreover, he had always had a question, so he took the opportunity to ask, Senior Nine Leaf, you are a 7th level great monster. What is the equivalent realm of a spirit cultivator? Leng Shiqi knew that a 6th level monster was equivalent to a spirit cultivator in the unity of heaven and man realm, but what cultivation level did a 7th level great monster correspond to? For example, Imperial Beast House's Southern Cloud Gate, Blood Beast Sect Xiapengyu, the 3 highest level leaders of the Blood Cloth Pavilion, and Leng Shiqi's Elder Mu and Elder Gu. What were the cultivation levels of these people? Nine Leaf said, Kid, you have just stepped into the 4 realms of heaven and man and you want to know the higher realms? Junior is just curious. Forget it, your Blood Cloth Pavilion must have people in this realm. You can ask around and find out, so there is no harm in me telling you. The realm above the 4 realms of heaven and man is the Sky Origin Realm. Sky Origin Realm? There are very few spirit cultivators in the Sky Origin Realm. They can already borrow a part of the power of heaven and earth. As long as these experts are willing, they can establish a powerful sect. Hiss. Leng Shiqi secretly sucked in a breath of air. Borrowing the power of heaven and earth? No matter how strong a person was, how could it compare to the power of heaven and earth? No wonder Elder Mu and Elder Gu could fly. He could not help but yearn for it. However, Nine Leaf said, don't think too much about it. You are too far away from that realm. Don't bite off more than you can chew. With your talent and ability, if you cultivate honestly, it is possible for you to reach that step in the future. Leng Shiqi was shocked and said sincerely, thank you for your reminder, Senior Nine Leaf. Nine Leaf's words not only broadened his horizons, but also enlightened him. The path of cultivation was long. He had to firmly walk down one step at a time. Only then could he walk higher and higher. Nine Leaf said, Humph, you brat, you are still pretending to be innocent. However, this time you helped me draw out that remnant soul, which benefited me a lot. I can't treat you unfairly. Ling Shiqi knew that he had completed Nine Leaves' mission. Before he entered the illusory spirit's secret realm, Nine Leaf would lend him a part of his power. However, Nine Leaf changed his words and said, "Let's talk about borrowing your power later. I sorted out a complete spiritual skill from that person's memory fragments. It should be very suitable for you." Ling Shiqi was slightly stunned. Nine Leaf had indeed said that the fastest way for him to increase his strength was to cultivate spiritual skills. However, spiritual skills had always been extremely precious and difficult to obtain. Now, someone had actually sent him a pillow when he was tired. Nine Leaf asked pointedly, "Do you want this spiritual skill or my power?" According to common sense, ordinary people would naturally choose to obtain a part of Nine Leaf's power. This was a way to increase one's strength in a short period of time. Not many people could resist the temptation of this power. Choosing a spiritual skill was choosing to believe in one's own power. After successfully cultivating it, this power would forever belong to oneself. However, at the same time, the cultivation of a spiritual skill was not that simple. Nine Leaf wanted to see what choice Ling Shiqi would make. However, Ling Shiqi did not hesitate and directly said, "Senior, I want the spiritual skill." Ling Shiqi's quick decision surprised Nine Leaf. Not long ago, Ling Shiqi especially wanted a part of her power. Why didn't he want it now? However, Nine Leaf did not get to the bottom of it. Instead, he wrote this spiritual skills secret book in Ling Shiqi's illusory spirit world. 4th level spiritual skill, Evil Sky Crying Curse. Chapter 236. After obtaining the Evil Sky Wailing Curse, Ling Shiqi directly tried to cultivate it. Of course, he was just pretending. In reality, he had already used his unlimited skill points to cultivate the Evil Sky Wailing Curse to the Great Perfection realm. He also knew that the Evil Sky Wailing Curse was a very evil and could even be said to be a very vicious spiritual technique. When cultivating this spiritual technique, one had to capture some boys and girls, provoke their negative emotions and absorb them. Even if the young boys and girls had negative emotions, they were still very pure. What the cultivator wanted was this kind of pure negative emotion. Furthermore, if he wanted to cultivate this spiritual skill to a higher realm, he would need to capture more young boys and girls. Although Ling Shiqi's hands were stained with blood, if he were to use the virgin boys and girls to cultivate this spiritual technique, he might not be able to do it. Luckily, he had unlimited skill points and could directly cultivate it. But like this, Ling Shiqi could not easily use this technique in front of Nine Leaf because Nine Leaf also knew the method to cultivate the Evil Sky Wailing Curse. So he could only use Nine Leaf's sleep as an excuse to say that he had cultivated this technique. The next day, Ling Shiqi and Nine Leaf went to the place that Translation City had prepared for the illusory palace token. When they arrived, there was already a sea of people. Before they even got close, they could already hear the sounds of people. Ling Shiqi even saw several tents set up at the edge of the crowd. There was even a gambling house inside. This meant that he was not sure if Lin Hui would come, otherwise he would have bet on it. Then Ling Shiqi spent a bit of effort to squeeze into the crowd. Only then did he see that there were 2 large arenas. Moreover, there was an array on the ground of the arenas. Those who had the qualifications to compete for the illusory palace token were all Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators. The sound of a battle between Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators was not small and they needed an array to not injure the audience. At this moment, a cry of surprise came from the crowd. Ling Shiqi turned his head and saw Lin Hui expressionlessly walking over with his martial arts club members. The news of Lin Ying's death had already spread throughout Shi City in the past 2 days. This had also become the topic of conversation for many people after their meals. They were all guessing who the culprit was and whether Lin Hui would still come to compete for the illusory palace token. After all, Lin Ying's body had not yet turned cold, and it was said that the funeral had not yet been held. However, Lin Hui still came. Ling Shiqi, the murderer, was very magnanimous and did not feel burdened. First of all, he was only following orders. He could be considered as a knife in someone else's hand. Even if he did not come, there would be other killers coming to kill Lin Ying. The difference was that the average assassin in black might really fall into the hands of Lin Ying. The old man's remnant soul was not strong, far from the demon spirit, but it was not weak either. It was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the early stage of the spirit pulse realm. If not for the fact that Nine Leaf could directly devour him, Ling Shiqi would have to go through a lot of trouble to get rid of him. If the black-clothed assassin failed, then the star level of the mission might be raised, and there would be blood-clothed assassins coming. Of course, the employer's reward would also be raised accordingly. In the end, Lin Ying would still die in the hands of other assassins. Secondly, even if no one hired an assassin, Lin Ying's body would still be taken over by the old man's remnant soul sooner or later. At this moment, Ling Shiqi appeared here with his true appearance. Lin Hui never thought that the murderer of his son would pass by him. Not long after, the battle for the illusory palace token began. The rules were very simple. The two arenas opened at the same time, and the final two arena masters would enter the finals to fight it out. The winner would be able to obtain the illusory palace token to enter the illusory spirit's secret realm. Ling Shiqi and Nine Leaf watched the battles with interest, but the two of them paid attention to completely different things. Ling Shiqi carefully observed every battle, the fighting methods of the spirit pulse realm cultivators and the use of spirit power. Although these people were rogue cultivators, those who could step into the spirit pulse realm were not simple. Almost everyone had something hidden in their chests. This also made Ling Shiqi more familiar with the battles between the spirit pulse realm cultivators. He even inspired a few of them and benefited a lot. As for Nine Leaf, she was purely watching the show. In her eyes, these battles between the spirit pulse realm cultivators were simply small fights. There was nothing to see. At first, she was a little interested, but later, she became bored. And when Lin Hui revealed his spirit pulse realm's 7th level cultivation, it shocked everyone. The result was no surprise. Lin Hui finally obtained the illusory palace token. He obtained the qualifications to enter the illusory spirit realm. This matter naturally caused a heated discussion in the translation city, but all of this had nothing to do with Ling Shiqi, because he had already embarked on his return journey. This trip to Interpreter City was originally an unexpected move, but he still had quite a lot of gains, far exceeding his expectations. After returning to the pavilion to hand in the mission, Ling Shiqi received the corresponding reward, which included 40 blood drops. He looked at his 190 blood drops and hesitated for a moment before walking to the long counter at the side of the hall. This was the place to exchange blood drops for resources. A gray-clothed odd-job disciple came forward and asked, "Sir, what do you want to exchange for?" Ling Shiqi replied, "I want to see spirit techniques." "Yes sir, but you are a black-clothed assassin, so you can only look at 3rd level and below spirit techniques." Hearing this, Ling Shiqi was a little helpless. He was clearly in the spirit pulse realm, but because he did not have enough blood drops, he was still a black-clothed assassin. In the blood-clothing pavilion, black-clothed assassins were only outer sect disciples and did not have much authority. And in order to increase his strength as much as possible before entering the illusory spirit realm, Ling Shiqi could only exchange blood drops for spirit techniques. So he could only help Feng Shamo collect more divine fantasy spirit stones in the illusory spirit realm. Then Ling Shiqi used 180 blood drops to exchange for a 3rd level spirit technique, Thunder Destruction Array. And for the next period of time, Ling Shiqi did missions to accumulate blood drops, and also took 9 leave to see the world. At the same time, he gained a lot of experience. And he also developed the habit of looking at the system store every day. Unfortunately, those products were either useless to him or he could not afford them. After a month, they had already explored more than half of Donglin County. On this day, when Ling Shiqi returned to the pavilion, he was greeted by a blood-clothed assassin. "Ling Shiqi, Grand Pavilion Leader summons me." Ling Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Feng Shamo must have summoned him about the illusory spirit realm. Then he came to the stone hall where Feng Shamo was, but to his surprise, there was another person here, Bing Shang. Chapter 237. When Bing Shang saw Leng Shiqi enter, he was also surprised. He obviously did not expect Leng Shiqi to come. Leng Shiqi cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Grand Pavilion Leader." Feng Sha Mo said with his hands behind his back, "The two of you will enter the illusory spirit's secret realm together, so you can take care of each other. It's just that our pavilion will arrange different identities for you." At this point, Feng Sha Mo pointed to the two big boxes on the table and said, "Leng Shiqi, you will enter the illusory spirit's secret realm as a rogue cultivator, and Bing Shang will enter as a disciple of a third-rate force. The boxes are prepared for you to hide your identities." Leng Shiqi and Bing Shang walked forward and saw their names on the boxes. Leng Shiqi first opened his box, which contained some clothes and other personal belongings. What was worth mentioning was that there was an illusory palace token. Leng Shiqi also found it interesting. He never thought that he would enter the illusory spirit's secret realm with an illusory palace token. As for where this illusory palace token came from, it was nothing more than snatching it or buying it. In addition, there was an exquisite mask and a thick stack of paper. On it was the life of a person called Zhua Qiuyu. Feng Sha Mo said, "When you go back, you must remember everything. In the illusory spirit's secret realm, you are no longer the Leng Shiqi and Bing Shang of the Blood Robe Pavilion. Of course, you can't use any of your signature techniques in front of outsiders. Do you understand?" "Disciple understands." Leng Shiqi and Bing Shang replied in unison. They knew that the disciples of the Blood Robe Pavilion could not participate in the secret realm. If their identities were exposed, it would bring great trouble to the Blood Robe Pavilion. Leng Shiqi recalled that in the battle at the Golden Wing Academy, he had used chaotic flower gradually mesmerizing eyes, half moon light slash, devouring light flying dagger, and earth fiend demon claw. Then, these techniques could not be used easily in the illusory spirit's secret realm. Even the jade sword could not be taken out. After all, there were quite a few Spirit Pulse realm cultivators in the Golden Wing Academy back then. They could all enter the illusory spirit realm and be easily recognized. Leng Shiqi thought to himself, "Luckily, I know a lot of spiritual techniques, so it shouldn't be a problem to hide my identity. I just don't know what Bing Shang will do." He turned his head slightly to look at Bing Shang. He saw that Bing Shang was still very calm, like a block of ice. He must have a way. Feng Shamo took out 2 pendants and said, "One for each of you. As long as you're within 5 kilometers, you'll be able to sense each other's location. Go back and familiarize yourself with your identities first. Tomorrow, you will set off on your own to the location stated in the intelligence report. Someone will come to pick you up." "Yes, disciple will take his leave." The two left the stone hall together. Leng Shiqi was about to leave when Bing Shang said, "You've changed a lot." Leng Shiqi didn't know if Bing Shang was talking about the change in his body shape or his cultivation, or maybe both. Bing Shang added, "If there's a chance, let's spar." "It's my pleasure," Leng Shiqi replied. He also remembered that Bing Shang had said the same thing in the Golden Wing Academy. However, Leng Shiqi rarely stayed in the pavilion after that. He hadn't seen Bing Shang many times, so naturally, he didn't have a chance to spar with him. Bing Shang was a genius cultivated by the Blood Clothing Pavilion in the Donglin County branch. He had always been valued. Leng Shiqi was looking forward to fighting with him. At this moment, an idea suddenly flashed in his mind. He had always been a little confused about why Feng Shamo wanted him to enter the illusory spirit's secret realm. There were many blood clothing assassins in the late stage of the spiritual pulse realm in the Donglin County branch. Since Feng Shamo wanted the divine illusion spirit stone, wouldn't it be better to send those in the late stage of the spiritual pulse realm? If he had to say that he valued his identity as the winner of the Blood Fog Island, it would make sense. But today, he found out that Bing Shang, a genius from the Blood Clothing Pavilion, had also entered the illusory spirit's secret realm. That was a little thought-provoking. Leng Shiqi remembered that the previous pavilion leader had mentioned that Feng Shamo came to the Donglin County branch with an ulterior motive. Originally, he thought that Feng Shamo was here to gain reputation and merit. Then, Feng Shamo destroyed 2 third-rate forces in a row, which indeed proved this point. But now, it seemed that it wasn't that simple. Leng Shiqi's thoughts turned quickly, and he suddenly thought of a possibility. Feng Shamo wants to cultivate his own team. According to his speculation, Feng Shamo, as the pavilion leader's personal disciple, was one of the candidates to succeed the position of pavilion leader in the future. To succeed the position of pavilion leader, not only did one need to have strength, but also reputation and the support of one's own team. Now, the most promising people in the Donglin County branch were undoubtedly Leng Shiqi and Bing Shang, so they were chosen to enter the illusory spirit's secret realm. After all, the illusory spirit's secret realm was a place full of opportunities. It was a great favor to be able to enter. Feng Shamo was actually using this method to recruit them. After understanding this, Leng Shiqi returned to his stone room and called out to Nine Leave in his mind. Senior Nine Leave. What's wrong? Nine Leave's tone sounded very relaxed and happy. It seemed that she was in a good mood. Senior, I will be leaving for the illusory spirit's secret realm tomorrow. Leng Shiqi's meaning was, where should Nine Leave go? Nine Leave said indifferently, you can go. I can just walk around by myself. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's mouth couldn't help but twitch. After this period of time, he knew that Nine Leave was not an easy person to deal with. If she went out alone, she might cause some trouble. Moreover, her demonic aura could be sensed by spirit cultivators with higher cultivation realms. If there was a demon extermination assembly, it would be a good show. Nine Leave seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. She teased, what? Are you worried about my safety? Leng Shiqi could only nod, Senior's cultivation has not recovered yet. It's better to be careful. You don't have to worry about this. Go to your secret realm. I will leave an imprint on your body. When you come out, just follow the imprint to find me. Release my main body. Next, Leng Shiqi left the branch and released Nine Leave's main body from the system space in a secluded place. Immediately, Nine Leave's soul returned to her main body and spat out a purple mist that entered Leng Shiqi's body. Leng Shiqi was stunned. Senior, this is? No matter which secret realm it is, not only are there opportunities, there are also endless dangers. Don't die inside, or I will suffer a great loss. My demonic power can allow you to have strength comparable to the late stage of the spirit pulse realm for an incense stick of time. Use it carefully. Don't say thank you, Senior. When you come out, help me do something. Before Nine Leave finished his words, he left directly. Chapter 238. The entrance to the illusory spirit's secret realm was near the sea in Donglin County. There was a small basin here. Logically speaking, such a landform would not appear in the coastal area. It was said that this was caused by the sudden appearance of the illusory spirit's secret realm more than 1,000 years ago. On this day, in a desolate forest dozens of miles away from the small basin, a middle-aged man dressed in green appeared. This man had a square face and a short beard. He always had a straight face and did not look easy to get along with. This person was Leng Shiqi after changing his appearance. His name was Zhuoqiu. Before coming, he had already memorized Zhuoqiu's life story and personality. Zhuoqiu was a rogue cultivator with no reputation and almost no friends. The main reason was that he had a bad temper. In other words, he was a stubborn, self-opinionated, and a little self-righteous. In fact, his aptitude was not bad. When he was young, he had entered a spirit cultivator sect. However, his temper was too bad and he was young and willful. Later on, he was schemed against and expelled from the sect. From then on, he became a rogue cultivator. Although his temper was bad, his luck was not bad. A few years ago, he coincidentally obtained a precious treasure and broke through to the spirit pulse realm. However, even though he was a spirit pulse realm cultivator, he was still not liked by others. Therefore, his life was not good. When Leng Shiqi read Zhuoqiu's life story, he also felt that this person was a little strange. It was fine if he was reckless when he was young, but he was still so inflexible when he was middle-aged. With his cultivation, it would be very comfortable to be a deacon elder in a third-rate force. It was also because of Zhuochuyu's bad temper that he did not have any close friends. Moreover, his whereabouts had always been unpredictable. It could be said that he was everywhere. No matter where he appeared, he would not arouse suspicion. Therefore, Feng Shamo chose Zhuochuyu as Ling Shiqi's identity. At this moment, Ling Shiqi was standing there with a dark face. The words, "Strangers are not allowed," were written on his face. After a long while, a figure sneaked over stealthily. When the two of them saw each other, they flashed their identity tokens and knew that they were on the same side. That person said in a low voice, "My lord, I am Hu Sanli. I am here to lend my lord a hand." Ling Shiqi saw that his cultivation was only at the late stage of the spirit transformation realm, and he couldn't enter the illusory spirit realm. How could he help him? Hu Sanli said, "I know that my cultivation is too low to enter your eyes. But I know a lot about the phantom spirit's secret realm and the information about all the forces in Donglin County. So you're an intelligence agent." However, Ling Shiqi still put on a sour face and said, "Then tell me." Hu Sanli pondered for a moment, as if he was organizing his thoughts, and said, "My lord, this illusory spirit's secret realm opens once every 100 years, and each time it opens, it will last for about 10 days. So far, they had opened it more than a dozen times, so they had a general idea of the situation inside. Because of this, there wasn't much worth exploring in the secret realm. The most precious items in the secret realm had long been plundered through the many explorations. However, there was one thing that would appear every time the secret realm opened. That was the divine fantasy spirit stone. As far as we know, this item only appears in the illusory spirit's secret realm. It is an excellent item for condensing spiritual highland. Hearing this, Ling Shiqi finally understood why Feng Shamo wanted him to collect the divine fantasy spirit stone. He remembered that when he was in the Golden Wing Academy, the old man of Mountain of Books had said that Feng Shamo had yet to condense spiritual highland. Therefore, Feng Shamo was enduring and wanted to use the divine fantasy spirit stone to condense spiritual highland. Ling Shiqi asked, "What's the danger in the secret realm?" Hu Sanli thought for a moment and replied, "If there's any danger in the secret realm, it's the illusion array that's everywhere. My lord, you might not know this, but the predecessor of the illusory spirit's secret realm is actually the ruins of the divine fantasy palace from 10,000 years ago. Most of the buildings inside have large and small formations, and almost all of them are illusion arrays. Occasionally, some powerful illusion beasts will appear. These illusion beasts don't have physical bodies, so ordinary attacks are useless. Therefore, my lord, after you enter, please be careful. Other than that, the more dangerous ones are spirit cultivators." Hu Sanli's last sentence hit the nail on the head. Although the illusory spirit's secret realm had been plundered more than 10 times, and there might not be many things left, it did not mean that there were none. Not to mention, which spirit cultivator who entered didn't want the divine fantasy spirit stone? Fighting was inevitable. This was also the problem that Ling Shiqi had been worried about. "My lord, the secret realm will open in 2 days. Let this lowly one accompany you to the entrance of the secret realm. This lowly one can recognize all the spirit cultivators sent in by the major powers, and can provide some information for my lord." Hu Sanli continued. Ling Shiqi expressionlessly replied with an "n" sound, then rushed to the entrance of the secret realm with Hu Sanli. At this time, the entrance of the secret realm could be said to be packed with people. From afar, a black mass of people formed a large circle, with a large empty space in the middle. With a rough look, there were tens of thousands of people. Furthermore, there were many people approaching from all directions. However, these people were all spirit cultivators below the 4th realm of the sky realm. They did not have the qualifications to enter the illusory spirit's secret realm. In other words, they were here to join in the fun. The opening of the illusory spirit's secret realm was a grand event that happened once in 100 years in Donglin County. Naturally, it attracted countless people. Even many people from the surrounding counties of Donglin County had come to broaden their horizons. Especially for rogue cultivators and small sects, they could see many experts here. Just this alone was enough for them to brag for a while. There were already hundreds of people standing in the open space near the entrance of the secret realm. They were all from the spirit cultivators' sects. Ling Shiqi and Hu Sanli squeezed into the crowd. Hu Sanli pointed at the people in the open space and said, "My lord, please take a look. The group of people at the side are from the third-rate sect, the Golden Blade Hall. However, only 5 of them can enter. The rest are escorts or here to broaden their horizons." Although Elder Hua Zhao's cultivation is at the middle stage of the Spirit Pulse realm, his combat strength is very strong, comparable to the late stage of the Spirit Pulse realm. Ling Shiqi asked, Why can only 5 of them enter? This is a tacit rule for hundreds of years. A third-rate sect can only send in 5 Spirit Pulse realm spirit cultivators. Second-rate sects can send in 10 people, and first-rate sects can send in 20 people. As for the top sects, they can send in 50 people. 50 people? Ling Shiqi could not help but be surprised. Wasn't that equivalent to 10 times the number of third-rate sects? The only top sect in Donglin County was the Mountain Sea sect. The disciples of the Mountain Sea sect were already strong. If 50 people entered, how could the others compete? This rule was set by the Mountain Sea sect, right? Indeed, but with the strength of the Mountain Sea sect, it should be so. Hu Sanli replied. He then introduced Ling Shiqi to the people who were already present. Not long after, the arrival of a force attracted everyone's attention. That was the first-rate force, the Tang family of Donglin County. Chapter 239. The arrival of dozens of people from the Tang family immediately ignited the crowd's emotions. Look, that's Tang family's elder, Tang Haoyan, an expert in the unity of heaven and man realm. And that woman, Tang Wanqiu, I heard that she stepped into the spiritual pulse realm before the age of 30. How enviable. Countless gazes fell on the Tang family, and many people pointed at them and whispered among themselves. The Tang family members were all arrogant and did not put others in their eyes. Even the third-rate sects that had already arrived didn't even spare them a glance. Only Tang Wanqiu's face was a little bitter. Ling Shiqi listened to Hu Sanli talk about the Tang family, and his eyes flashed with killing intent. He still had not forgotten Tang Haoqing's punch. Even if he killed Tang Hapu and the 4 Tang family disciples, it was still difficult to eliminate the hatred in his heart. If he could meet a single Tang family member in the secret realm, he would definitely kill 1 or 2 to vent his hatred. When he saw Tang Wanqiu, a strange thought came to his mind. In the Golden Wing Academy, Tang Wanqiu was defeated by Bing Shang and escaped. This time, Bing Shang would also enter the illusory spirit secret realm. He did not know if the 2 of them would meet. Next, one after another, the spirit cultivator sects arrived, including the third-rate forces such as Tianyan Tower and Haoyi sect that Ling Shiqi had met. Hu Sanli also introduced Ling Shiqi to the people he should pay attention to one by one. However, there was one sect that had not arrived. That was the most powerful Mountain Sea sect in Donglin County. Everyone was also looking forward to seeing the Mountain Sea sect. However, the Mountain Sea sect did not arrive until the next day when the secret realm was about to begin. There were hundreds of people from the Mountain Sea sect. Each of them was wearing blue and yellow clothes, and each of them had an extraordinary bearing. The appearance of the Mountain Sea sect instantly raised everyone's enthusiasm to the highest point. It was obvious that the Mountain Sea sect's reputation in Donglin County was unparalleled. However, when they recognized the person in the lead, they were all dumbfounded. Then they all closed their mouths and lowered their heads in silence. The leader of the group was an amiable old man. He walked through the crowd with a smile on his face and nodded to the people around him from time to time. He gave off an amiable feeling like a spring breeze. However, no one dared to look him in the eye. Even the Tang family elder, Tang Haoyan, lowered his noble head. Because the person who came was the Mountain Sea sect's Mountain Tower Lord, Huang Baisheng. The Mountain Sea sect was divided into 2 branches, the Lofty Mountain Tower and the Billowing Ocean Tower. The Lofty Mountain Tower's tower master was second only to the sect master. Of course, everyone lowered their heads not only because of his identity, but also because of his strength. Huang Baixing was a Sky Origin stage cultivator. Ling Shiqi felt a sense of familiarity when he saw Huang Baixing from afar. It was the same aura that he had sensed from Elder Mu and Elder Gu. Hu solemnly whispered in Ling Shiqi's ear, My lord, he is Huang Baixing, a Sky Origin stage cultivator. Why did he come here personally? He really is a Sky Origin stage cultivator. Ling Shiqi secretly took a deep breath. He remembered that when he first met Elder Mu and Elder Gu, he and the Delta Origi were still on guard against the two elders. The so-called ignorant are fearless. Huang Baixing's appearance actually caused this place that was filled with nearly 100,000 people to become silent. He clearly did not emit any Sky Origin stage spiritual pressure, nor did he say a word. Just by walking there, countless people could not help but lower their heads. This was the reverence for the strong. This was also the honor that the strong deserved. Only when all the people from the Mountain Sea sect came in and stood still did the crowd raise their heads. However, they tried their best to control their voices. No one dared to make a ruckus. A pure spirit stage youth said dizzily, I actually met a legendary expert that surpassed the 4 realms of Sky Origin stage. I'm not dreaming, right? Ouch, it really hurts. To be able to meet Senior Huang on this trip, it is a lifetime honor. The upper echelons of the Spirit Cultivator sect were all guessing why Senior Huang came here personally. At this time, Hu Sanli said, Sir, you have to pay attention to that person. Ling Shiqi looked in the direction he was pointing and saw a slightly immature youth standing in the Mountain Sea sect. He is Bai Yi. He just broke through to the Spirit Pulse stage not long ago. He is only 23 years old. Ling Shiqi listened and pretended to be surprised. Bai Yi, who broke through to the Spirit Pulse stage at the age of 23, had indeed shaken the entire Donglin County during this period. He had heard of him when he was traveling with 9 Leave, but in fact, there was nothing to be surprised about. Because he was in the Spirit Pulse stage at the age of 14. Hu Sanli continued, Bai Yi is now the #1 person in the younger generation of the Mountain Sea sect. Perhaps part of the reason why Huang Baixing came here personally is because of him. Milord, in the mystic realm, you can kill anyone but Bai Yi. Ling Shiqi nodded indifferently and said, Why would I kill him for no reason? Just as they were talking, there was a commotion in the crowd. They turned their heads and saw a group of people in white with swords on their backs walking over. Am I seeing things? They are from the 1,000 Illusion Sword sect. The 1,000 Illusion Sword sect of the 8 Desolate Weapon Dao. Another top force. Why are the people from Pinghui County here? Why else? It must be for the Illusory Spirit's secret realm. The Mountain Sea sect allowed the people from the 1,000 Illusion Sword sect to enter the Illusory Spirit's secret realm? However, to everyone's surprise, Huang Baixing of the Mountain Sea sect said, You're finally here. The leader of the 1,000 Illusion Sword sect bowed and said, Thank you, Landlord Huang. Although the two of them had only said 2 short sentences, everyone understood that it was the Mountain Sea sect who had asked the 1,000 Illusion Sword sect to come. Many people felt that this was not in accordance with the rules, but in front of Huang Baixing, in front of the Mountain Sea sect, no one dared to say a word. Ling Shiqi asked Hu Sanli, Tell me about the 1,000 Illusion Sword sect. Hu Sanli immediately answered, The 1,000 Illusion Sword sect is a top force in Donglin County, one of the 8 Desolate Weapon Dao, and is a sword cultivator sect. They cultivate the 1,000 Illusion Sword scripture, which is a supreme technique. The sword moves are both real and fake, and it is impossible to guard against them. The true core disciples of the 1,000 Illusion Sword sect are even more powerful. They are able to integrate part of their illusory techniques into their sword techniques. Some people can even end their lives in their dreams. Ling Shiqi could not help but be moved. To be able to integrate illusory techniques into sword techniques, it could be said to be mysterious. By the way, sir, there is one person in the 1,000 Illusion Sword sect that you should pay special attention to. That is Ozu, a sword cultivator genius who broke through to the Spirit Pulse realm at the age of 25. Just as they were talking, the spiritual energy in the world suddenly became chaotic. Everyone's attention was drawn to it. All the spiritual energy within a radius of dozens of kilometers quickly gathered above everyone, as if there was an invisible black hole there. Everyone noticed this change, but they did not panic because they knew that the illusory spirit's secret realm was about to appear. Not long after, a dazzling seven-colored brilliance began to appear in midair. The seven-colored brilliance continued to absorb the boundless spiritual energy and gradually wriggled. After a long while, a crack appeared in the seven-colored brilliance. Another hour passed, and the crack slowly expanded, turning into a door. That was the entrance to the illusory spirit's secret realm. At this moment, everyone seemed to hold their breaths as they looked at the door with burning eyes. Even the people who came to watch the show were the same. Chapter 240. At this moment, Huang Baixing opened his mouth and said indifferently, "Those with the illusory palace token can come over." As soon as he spoke, he instantly attracted everyone's attention. Ling Shiqi knew that he should go out. Hu Samli said from the side, "I congratulate you in advance on your safe return." Ling Shiqi grunted again, took out the illusory palace token, and walked out of the crowd. There were 9 people similar to him. He quickly scanned the other 9 people, and 3 of them caught his attention. One was Lin Hui. At this time, Lin Hui's hair was half black and half white, and there was no expression on his face. The other was a person covered in a black robe. Ling Shiqi actually felt a familiar aura from that person. The last was a young woman wearing a black veil. Ling Shiqi saw that she didn't seem to be a rogue cultivator, and guessed that she didn't get the illusory palace token by herself. Ling Shiqi and the other 10 people handed over the illusory palace token. After verifying its authenticity, they stood aside and waited to enter the illusory spirit's secret realm. However, the strange thing was that until now, he hadn't sensed the aura of the other pendant. The other pendant was on Bing Sheng's body. There was no aura now. Either Bing Sheng put the pendant into her mustard seed bag, or something unexpected happened. Of course, he was more inclined to the former. After a while, the door in the air had completely opened, but it didn't look very stable. Huang Baixing took the lead to walk to the entrance of the secret realm. He held up the sky with one hand, and then the spirit chi of heaven and earth surged wildly again. Everyone felt that there was an endless aura of earth around them. A huge mysterious mark appeared on Huang Baixing's palm. At this moment, everyone felt as if they were facing a towering mountain. Ling Shiqi only glanced at the mark and felt a stabbing pain in his eyes. Even the illusory spirit world trembled a little. He quickly turned his head and didn't dare to look again. His heart was greatly shocked. Huang Baixing turned his hand and pushed. The mysterious mark majestically fell into the 7-colored crack at the entrance of the secret realm. The originally wriggling crack immediately stabilized. Huang Baixing was actually strengthening the entrance of the secret realm. After doing all this, Huang Baixing said, "You can go in now." Following which, the 50 spirit pulse realm cultivators of the Mountain Sea sect stepped forward in unison. They first bowed to Huang Baixing before jumping into the rainbow-colored crack together. Next were the 2 first-class forces in Donglin County. They were the Tang family and the Wu family, and each of them had 20 people. Following closely behind were the people from the Thousand Illusionary Sword sect. 20 people had also entered. Next were the second and third-rate sections. Among them, the people from Heavenly Cloud Tower, Luoyu Manor and Hao Yi's sect whispered something to each other before they entered. In the end, it was Ling Shiqi's turn. Ling Shiqi looked at the 7-colored crack and leaped into it with the spiritual energy under his feet. He suddenly felt that everything in front of him was blurry and dazzling colors. After a few breaths, he suddenly arrived at a spacious area. He quickly looked around and found that he was at the foot of a small mountain. The surrounding weeds had grown to his waist, and it looked slightly desolate. There was no sun or moon in the sky, only endless faint 7-colored light. It looked like a dream. However, the spiritual energy here was abnormally abundant, comparable to that of the Blood Clothing Pavilion's main pavilion. Ling Shiqi's eyes changed and he activated his supercilious eyes. Everything within a radius of 3 to 4 miles was within his field of vision. Not a single person? He muttered in surprise. Before him, at least hundreds of people had entered the secret realm, but there was no one near him. It could be seen that everyone had been scattered, which also meant that this secret realm was not small. In his opinion, since he and Bing Shang had things that could sense each other, the people from the other sects would naturally have them as well. It would not be long before they gathered together. He needed to try his best to get as many benefits as possible before the spirit cultivator sects gathered. Ling Shiqi raised his eyes and looked at the small mountain in front of him. There were some white buildings on it. He decided to go up and explore first. Since there was no one around, he simply rushed to the top of the mountain at full speed. After a while, Ling Shiqi arrived at the top of the mountain. However, his expression was not good because most of the buildings here had already collapsed. Moreover, there were many obvious signs of vandalism. Even the floor tiles on the ground had been lifted up quite a bit. Ling Shiqi did not know what to say. This place had clearly been explored by many waves of people. They were just short of digging 3 feet into the ground. Therefore, there probably would not be anything good here. However, it also meant that there would not be any danger here. Ling Shiqi still walked in and looked around. There were many houses here, which seemed to be the residence of the disciples. From the looks of it, it was rather simple. It was probably the residence of some disciples who were not valued. He strolled around, but in the end, he did not find anything. He only found a tattered book in the corner of the wall, which recorded some daily life scattered about. Ling Shiqi was curious about what happened 10,000 years ago, so he flipped through it a few times. From these broken words, it could be seen that although these disciples were not valued, they were still proud of their status and were full of reverence for the sect. However, what was the use of this to Ling Shiqi? He shook his head and looked into the distance. In the distance of the small mountain under his feet, there was a towering mountain peak. There might be something there. Then, Ling Shiqi did not delay any longer and immediately rushed to the mountain peak. However, as the saying goes, a mountain is far away. The mountain peak had always been in his field of vision, but he still had not reached it after flying for more than 2 hours. It was not until 4 hours later that he arrived at the foot of the mountain peak. Ling Shiqi stopped at this moment. Even if he did not open his Byakugan, he could sense a faint fluctuation of spirit energy coming from the mountainside. There was already someone there. And they were fighting. Ling Shiqi immediately put on a sour face. He could not forget that he was now Zhuqiu. Fortunately, Zhuqiu had learned many things, and was somewhat similar to Ling Shiqi. He had 2 swords on both sides of his waist. The sword was naturally the Qinglin saber, but the sword was only a level 3 spirit weapon. He did not dare to use the unpolished jade sword here. The sword symbol was too strong, and it was very easy to recognize. Many people had seen him take the unpolished jade sword back then. Ling Shiqi walked into the mountain peak with a straight face. He deliberately concealed his aura, intending to observe who was fighting and see if he could fish in troubled waters. However, not long after he walked out and was about to open his Byakugan, he immediately felt a gust of cold wind coming from behind him. He hurriedly turned around and unsheathed his spirit sword at the same time. The sword was like a long river that came menacingly, blocking a dagger that had approached him without him knowing. Chapter 241. It's you. Ling Shiqi also saw clearly that it was the veiled woman in black who attacked him. The black veil woman's eyes flashed. Her voice was not very delicate, but it had a mature charm. She smiled and said, "Uncle, your reaction is quite fast." Ling Shiqi's face was expressionless, but there was a ripple in his heart. Although he did not activate his supercilious eyes, his perception was not weak. But this woman was actually able to silently appear behind him. If he had not experienced countless life and death situations and had long been sensitive to danger, he was afraid that he would have been hit. He said in a deep voice, "Who are you? How dare you attack me?" "Oh, Uncle seems to be angry." The black veil woman did not answer his question, but teased him instead. Ling Shiqi's face darkened. He waved the spirit sword in his hand and used several completely different sword moves at the same time. Some were strong and fierce, some were soft like a whip, some were fast like a rainbow, and some were sharp. This was the 17 sword techniques of Mount Song that he used to the extreme. The black veil woman obviously did not expect that the seemingly ordinary rogue cultivator in front of her would be so fierce that even she found it a little difficult to resist. The black-veiled woman's dagger flew like a flower, and it actually condensed into a flower of spiritual energy in her hand. In an instant, it seemed as if countless petals scattered out, blocking all of Ling Shiqi's sword moves. Ling Shiqi's eyes narrowed. He could clearly feel that those spiritual energy flowers were condensed from extremely pure spiritual energy. This was definitely not the spiritual energy that an ordinary rogue cultivator could have. This woman's identity was not simple. However, Ling Shiqi did not want to delve into it. His sword moves were still constantly stabbing out and changing. At the same time, he quietly shot out a few invisible sword chi. The black veil woman was a little caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a few meridian-breaking sword chi. Even if the spiritual flower flowed and blocked the sword chi, her left sleeve was still shattered by the aftershock, revealing a jade arm. The black-veiled woman gritted her teeth and said, Uncle looks so decent, but I didn't expect you to be this kind of trash." Ling Shiqi didn't say a word. With a swish, he pulled down the cloth from his clothes and covered his eyes. Then, he stretched out his left hand and beckoned forward. The black-veiled woman clenched her teeth so hard that they creaked. She had never been humiliated and looked down upon like this before. Her spiritual energy was dyed with a pitch-black color. This was the devil spiritual energy. So she was actually a devil cultivator. The reason why Ling Shiqi covered his eyes was not because he wanted to be a gentleman, nor was it because he wanted to provoke the black-veiled woman. It was because this was the only way he could activate the Byakugan. The cloth covering his eyes happened to cover his eyes and the blue veins at the corners of his eyes. For Ling Shiqi, who had activated Byakugan, there was no problem with vision. Moreover, he could clearly see the flow of spiritual energy in the black-veiled woman's body. In the blink of an eye, the spirit flowers around the black-veiled woman all turned into pure black flowers of nirvana. The next moment, countless petals of nirvana rushed over. Ling Shiqi's sword shook out sword shadows, and in an instant, dozens of invisible unblocking meridian sword chis surged out. The unblocking meridian sword chis intertwined with the petals of nirvana. The sword chis crushed most of the petals, but the petals seemed to be endless. Ling Shiqi's sword move changed, and cold blue frost sword chis burst out from the blade. As soon as the sword chis came out, the nearby air was filled with cold air. The frost sword chis froze the petals of nirvana with the extreme coldness of the 10,000-year cold cave, causing all the petals to turn into ice crystals. It looked a little beautiful. The black-veiled woman's expression finally became serious. The strength of the rigid uncle in front of her was more and more beyond her expectations. In fact, at the beginning, she just wanted to test the strength of a rogue cultivator who could enter the illusory spirit's secret realm. Now it seemed that the other party was not weaker than her. The black-veiled woman came from an extraordinary background, so she still had some pride in her heart. However, she couldn't take down a rogue cultivator, which made her even more embarrassed. "Uncle, you're good. Take another move of mine." The black-veiled woman shouted, and the nirvana flowers frozen by Ling Shiqi exploded. In an instant, endless demonic energy exploded. Ling Shiqi was in the demonic energy, but he didn't resist. Instead, he put away the spirit sword and held the hilt of the Qing Lin saber with his right hand. Under his supercilious eyes, he clearly saw that there was no danger in the demonic energy. It was just a trick. The real danger was the black-veiled woman who was rapidly approaching. The black-veiled woman held a dagger in her hand, and petals flew in the air. In this beauty, there was a hidden killing intent. Ling Shiqi held the scabbard with his left hand and the hilt with his right hand. His body was slightly bent, making a slightly strange posture. It took a long time to describe, but in fact, the black-veiled woman had already arrived. However, before the black-veiled woman's dagger stabbed out, Leng Shiqi moved first. In the next moment, an extreme cyan saber light flashed and disappeared. The saber had returned to the scabbard, and the saber light disappeared like a flash in the pan. However, it was at this moment that the saber light cut through all the demonic energy, shattered the nirvana flowers, and broke the black-veiled woman's confidence. The black-veiled woman was unscathed, but the black veil on her face had been destroyed, revealing a beautiful face that was pure and enchanting. However, this face was full of horror. This was because the black-veiled woman knew best that the black veil she was wearing was not just a simple mask, but also a defensive spiritual weapon. And this spirit artifact was actually shattered in an instant. She also felt a lingering fear in her heart. If she didn't have this defensive spiritual weapon, she was afraid that she would have been beheaded by now. This move was the semi-finished product of Leng Shiqi's attempt to integrate the saber drawing technique into the full moon rapid light slash. But even if it was only a semi-finished product, its power was terrifying enough. He compressed the saber light that was originally like a full moon to the extreme, and poured it out the moment he drew the saber. It was a pity that he hadn't fully comprehended this move, otherwise, even if the black-veiled woman had a defensive spiritual weapon, she would have died under the saber. Seeing the woman's true appearance, Leng Shiqi was not moved, but his eyes flashed with a trace of killing intent. A layer of cold sweat appeared on the black-veiled woman's back unconsciously. She knew that she would really die if they continued to fight. Immediately, the spiritual flowers around the black-veiled woman rotated, and she quickly flew away with a burst of fragrance. Looking at the speed of her escape, Leng Shiqi frowned. This woman's speed was really not slow. If he chased after her, he would have to waste a lot of time. After a slight hesitation, Leng Shiqi gave up on chasing after her. Now that he had just entered the secret realm, he had inexplicably fought a fight. He hadn't even seen a single treasure, and he had wasted a lot of his spiritual power in vain. Moreover, that woman was obviously a disciple of a large spirit cultivator sect. He didn't know what trump cards she had, so he might not be able to kill her if he rashly chased after her. Taking a step back, even if he could kill that woman, he probably wouldn't feel good. It was better to go up the mountain and explore. Maybe he would even gain something. Then, Leng Shiqi took off the cloth covering his eyes and prepared to continue up the mountain. But who would have thought that the woman's hateful voice would come from afar? Uncle's kindness today, this little girl will definitely repay it in the future. She even emphasized the word repay. When Leng Shiqi heard this, he secretly shook his head. If he met her again, he wouldn't mind destroying her. Chapter 242. Leng Shiqi did not take the woman's words to heart. He took advantage of the situation and did not walk for long before he saw 6 spirit auras in his Byakugan vision. 5 of them were common spirit cultivators, but the last one was a little strange. It was obviously not a person, but a strange beast completely composed of spirit power. Leng Shiqi thought of the phantom beast that Hu Sanli had mentioned. The phantom beast that was unique to the illusory spirit's secret realm. Leng Shiqi saw that the phantom beast's spirit power was equivalent to a spirit cultivator at the 3rd level of the spirit pulse realm, but it was now under the siege of 5 spirit cultivators. Its spirit power was getting weaker and weaker, and it looked like it would be killed soon. He immediately retracted his aura and quietly approached the battle. After approaching, he found that the 5 people fighting the phantom beast were wearing 2 different outfits. It was obvious that they belonged to 2 different sections. One of them was from the Luoyu Manor that Leng Shiqi had come into contact with. There were 3 people from the Luoyu Manor, and 2 people from the other side were from the third-rate sect, Skyfall Castle. Now the 5 of them were working together to kill a strange phantom beast that was completely red. The phantom beast did not seem to have a physical body and could change into any shape at will. Ordinary swords and sabers could not hurt it. However, spirit cultivators in the spirit pulse realm could already use their spirit power to leave their body. They had some means to hurt the phantom beast, but the effect was not very obvious. Therefore, the 5 of them had not completely killed the phantom beast after fighting for half a day. On the contrary, the phantom beast's attack was very important to them. If they were careless, they would be injured. Leng Shiqi hid in the dark and observed the phantom beast's attack methods as well as the cultivation and spirit techniques of the 5 people. 2 of the 3 people from the Luo Yu Manor were in the early stage of the Spirit Pulse realm, and the other was in the middle stage of the Spirit Pulse realm. He was an old man who used a sword. The 2 people from the Skyfall Castle were only in the early stage of the Spirit Pulse realm. These 5 people used sword chi, saber chi, fist chi, palm and other methods to attack the phantom beast. After slowly wearing it down, they finally killed the phantom beast. Once the phantom beast died, all of its spiritual energy did not dissipate. Instead, it condensed and finally formed a fist-sized spirit stone that exuded a faint 7-colored brilliance. It looked magnificent. When Leng Shiqi saw this item, he was shocked. Divine Illusion Spirit Stone. So I can obtain Divine Illusion Spirit Stones by killing illusion beasts. The appearance of the Divine Illusion Spirit Stone also surprised the 5 people. The middle stage Spirit Pulse Realm Old Man said with joy, an early stage Spirit Pulse Realm illusory beast actually formed a Divine Illusion Spirit Stone. Huh, what a pleasant surprise. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi also understood that not all illusion beasts had divine fantasy spirit stones. However, as soon as the spirit stone appeared, the atmosphere changed. Not only did Luo Yu Manor have 3 people, they even had an extra Spirit Pulse stage spirit cultivator. They were determined to obtain the Divine Illusion Spirit Stone. The 2 people from Skyfall Castle looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. Right now, they were inferior. They could not fight for this Divine Illusion Spirit Stone, nor could they fight for it. The skinny one of the 2 said to the old man from Luo Yu Manor, Mr. Luo Yi, the 2 of us will give this Divine Illusion Spirit Stone to you. However, the 2 of us still have to go up and explore this mountain. Luo Yi directly picked up the Divine Illusion Spirit Stone and put it into his mustard seed bag. Then, he said, it's good that we go up together. We can take care of each other. When Leng Shiqi heard this, he guessed Luo Yi's thoughts. They had already encountered an illusion beast halfway up the mountain, who knew what dangers there would be if they went up. The reason why Luo Yi allowed the people from Skyfall Castle to go up was to let them take the risk. As for Leng Shiqi, those 5 people were also going to be struck by lightning. He directly sank into the ground and followed behind them from afar. However, among the 5 people, there was a person from Luo Yu Manor who was also slowly walking at the back. From time to time, he would look around, causing Leng Shiqi to be even more careful in hiding himself. On the mountain peak stood a dilapidated palace. After tens of thousands of years of erosion and more than 10 waves of spirit cultivators, this palace was already dilapidated beyond recognition. Even so, one could faintly feel a trace of grandeur. The few of them stepped into the palace together and immediately saw dozens of corpses lying in the main hall. Some of the corpses had already turned into white bones, and some of the flesh had not completely rotted. It was obvious that they had crossed a long distance. At the same time, it also meant that there was an unknown danger here. Both sides immediately became vigilant. Luo Yi's expression was grave as he walked in front of a skeleton. The clothes on the skeleton had not completely rotted, and were actually somewhat similar to his clothes. This is my sect's ancestor. Luo Yi's face darkened as he put away the skeleton. At this time, the person beside him said, Senior brother Luo, look over there. Luo Yi heard this and turned to look. He saw an open door on the right side of the main hall, but he did not know where it led to. Junior brother Yu, junior brother Chao, let's go take a look. Luo Yi said. The person who discovered the door, which was the spirit cultivator surnamed Yu, had played a trick. He saw that the door had been opened and there were no restrictions. In order to guard against the people from Skyfall Castle, he took the lead and rushed into the door. However, just as his body passed through the door, he saw a flash of green light and he stopped in place. Luo Yi and the spirit cultivator surnamed Chao's face changed slightly. They hurriedly went forward, but they did not dare to touch the spirit cultivator surnamed Yu. Looking carefully, the spirit cultivator surnamed Yu's face was changing all kinds of expressions. Sometimes he was crying, sometimes he was laughing, sometimes he was angry, sometimes he was sad. Luo Yi sighed and said, Junior brother Yu is too impatient. He has already fallen into an illusion. The spirit cultivator surnamed Xiao frowned and said, but there was clearly no array restriction here just now. Why did junior brother Yu suddenly become like this? This is the most dangerous place in the illusory spirit's secret realm. You don't even know where the illusion array will appear. Luo Yi continued, now that we can't help, we can only rely on junior brother Yu. At this time, the other two people from Skyfall Castle had other thoughts. They took advantage of the fact that Luo Yi and the spirit cultivator surnamed Xiao's attention was not on them. The two of them suddenly burst out with powerful spirit energy. They attacked with a fist and a palm respectively. The fist was as heavy as a mountain, the palm wind was as light as the wind, and the two of them actually complemented each other, causing the power to increase by 30%. The target of the fist and palm wind was the spirit cultivator surnamed Yu, who was trapped in the illusion. Seeing this, Luo Yi flew into a rage and shouted, "Humph, you're courting death." Immediately, his spirit sword tore through the sky and slashed down. For a moment, the entire hall was filled with sword intent. However, at this moment, an extremely thin sword blade suddenly pierced through his protective spirit chi and stabbed into his back. Chapter 243. Puchi. The blade pierced into Luo Yi's back, and the one who did it was the spirit cultivator surnamed Xiao, who was standing beside him. At the same time, the two from Skyfall Castle suddenly turned their attacks towards Luo Yi. So their real target was Luo Yi. Luo Yi's old face was gloomy as he bellowed, "Chao Mang, you dare to betray Luo Yi Manor? Humph, you better mind your own business." Chao Mang revealed a cold smile as he pulled out his sword and retreated. The moment he pulled out his sword, a line of blood appeared. Luo Yi was suddenly injured, the sword intent and sword chi that he had just condensed dissipated, and at this time, the fist and palm had already arrived. Luo Yi did not care about anything else. He took out a dark green broken sword from his mustard seed bag. Although it was a broken sword, the moment it appeared, it gave people a feeling of extreme sharpness. He held the broken sword in his hand, his face revealing a sinister smile. Die. The moment the sword appeared, a dark green sword aura that was close to 20 feet long shot out from the broken sword. The sword light sprinkled down and directly broke the fists and palms of the two people from the Skyfall Castle, and blasted them away. His spirit pulse intermediate stage cultivation had been fully displayed, but even though he had forced the two of them to retreat, his face had clearly turned pale. Chao Mang, who had just retreated, the thin sword in his hand was like a venomous snake that had been hiding for a long time, finding the gap in Luo Yi's weakness and thrusting towards him. His sword did not have any strong sword chi, nor did it have a ferocious sword aura. He had gathered all his spirit energy at the tip of the sword, using that to break through. His sword was aimed at Luo Yi's back. Luo Yi did not turn around, the sword aura that was like a waterfall swung over, once again blocking the attack. However, he was injured. Continuously using the broken sword's power had consumed a lot of his energy, adding on the fact that he was already old, he could not withstand continuous fierce battles. After a short while, he was finally besieged by the three of them and died with a grievance. Of course, the three of them were injured as well. Leng Shiqi, who was outside the hall, sneered when he saw this scene. However, he did not look surprised because this kind of drama was very common on Blood Mist Island. As for why Chao Mang had betrayed him, Leng Shiqi didn't know the exact reason, but at the end of the day, it was nothing more than the benefits. The reason why he didn't go underground was because he didn't know what material the palace was made of. His hand of the earth couldn't penetrate it at all. Fortunately, he had his supercilious eyes activated. Even if he didn't go in, he could still see the situation inside. Following that, the spirit cultivator surnamed Yu, who had already fallen into the illusion, was killed by the three without any resistance. Chow Mang picked up Luo Yi's dark green broken sword and mustard seed pouch and said with a smile, "Brother Tang Yuan, Brother Lu Can, I look forward to working with you." Tang Yuan was the thin man from the Skyfall Castle. He replied, "Haha, Brother Chow, you won't be able to run away from the elder position this time. Congratulations, congratulations. You're too kind. Brother Tang, if you bring the heads of these two back, you'll definitely be rewarded." Chow Mang waved his hand and said. Lu Can then said, "Thinking back to the time when us brothers entered different spirit cultivator sects, it was a wise choice." Tang Yuan chuckled, "That's natural. Alright, let's not talk anymore. Let's go in and explore." Following that, the three of them entered the door. Ling Shiqi also quietly entered the hall and looked at the door with a burning gaze. He thought to himself, supercilious eyes can't see through the door. There should be something good inside. His Byakugan had lost its effect several times in Boiwanhu's tomb. Those powerful formations could block the Byakugan's prying eyes. There was clearly such a formation behind the door. After Chow Mang and the other two entered, they found themselves in a side hall. In the center of the side hall was an empty space with a radius of 6 meters. The empty space was charred black and there were many traces of battle left behind. Strangely, there were no corpses. Seeing this, the three of them had ugly expressions. It was clear that someone had been here long ago and had fought over something. Chow Mang said in a low voice, "Let's split up and search. There might be something left behind." The other two didn't say anything. They spread out and started to search around. Outside the door, Ling Shiqi looked at the door. His supercilious eyes couldn't see anyone coming up the mountain. In other words, there were only the four of them here. At this moment, a crazy idea appeared in his mind. That was to kill the three of them and take everything here for himself. This idea seemed crazy, but in reality, it was not impossible. First of all, the three of them had fought the illusion beasts and surrounded Luo Yi. They must have used up a lot of their spirit energy and were injured. It wasn't impossible for him to do it if he didn't plan it. Ling Shiqi's eyes flashed with killing intent. He began to secretly set up his plan. Inside the side hall, Chow Mang impatiently kicked away a pair of junk. His patience was almost worn out. He had practically searched the entire side hall but didn't find anything. On the other hand, Tang Yuan and Lu Can had picked up a few valuable items. But just as he was about to turn around, he stilled. This is... Chow Mang pulled out a pile of messy items and found a silver paper. He patted away the thick layer of dust on it and saw the words on it. Soon after, his pupils abruptly shrank as he hurriedly stuffed the paper into his mustard seed bag. But this action fell into Tang Yuan's eyes. He brought Lu Can closer and said, "Brother Chow, your harvest is great." Chow Mang grimaced. "What harvest? We didn't even have a single strand of hair left." "Is that so?" Tang Yuan sneered. Chow Mang raised an eyebrow. "What, Brother Tang doesn't believe me? What are you saying? How could I not believe Brother Chow? But we already agreed to share blessings. Brother Lu and I didn't touch Luo Yi's sword and mustard seed bag at all. Now that Brother Chow has obtained something good but isn't willing to share it with us, isn't that a little unreasonable?" Tang Yuan's tone grew colder and colder as he drew closer to Lu Can. Chow Mang's heart sank. If he had obtained an ordinary treasure, it would have been fine to share it with them. But if he could take this item out, he would have wealth and resources he could never accumulate in his entire life. At that time, his cultivation would naturally soar. In the future, it would not be impossible for him to establish his own sect. But at this time, Chow Mang's face suddenly filled with fear. He trembled as he pointed behind Tang Yuan and Lu Can. There's a ghost." Tang Yuan and Lu Can couldn't help but laugh. "Brother Chow, this trick of yours is too laughable. Do you think we're 3 years old?" Lu Can also agreed. "That's right. Hand over the item and we'll still be brothers. Otherwise, don't blame us for being ruthless." But what they didn't expect was that a ghost formed from evil energy would really appear behind them. Chapter 244. Behind Tang Yuan and Lu Can, there was a monster that was neither a monster nor a ghost that was neither a monster nor a ghost. Its entire body was covered in gray mist, looking incomparably fierce. Following this, the monster opened its mouth, which was actually as big as a door. Chao Mang saw all of this and he could no longer care about Tang Yuan and Lu Can. He released his protective spiritual energy and took out the dark green broken sword. Tang Yuan and Lu Can thought that Chao Mang would go all out against them, but they could see a trace of fear in Chao Mang's eyes. At this moment, layers of gray ripples came out of the gray monster's mouth. The strange thing was that there were faint cries coming from these ripples. What was even more terrifying was that these cries seemed to be the cries of children. The monster had appeared without a sound, and Tang Yuan and Lu Can's attention had been focused on Chao Mang. Therefore, the two of them were instantly drowned by the ripples. Their minds were filled with cries and howls, and even began to stir up all sorts of negative emotions in their bodies. Pain, anger, depression, sadness, the endless negative emotions were about to drive them crazy. The gray ripples continued to seep into their bodies as streams of evil qi invaded their bodies and corroded them. This was a dual torture of the physical body and mind. This was the fourth-level spiritual technique, the evil sky morning curse. Of the three of them, only Chao Mang released sword qi from the broken sword to block a portion of the gray ripples, but even like this, his expression was filled with pain. Only they did not know if this monster was originally in this side hall or if it was made by someone. No matter where this monster came from, they had to leave first. Chao Mang only wanted to leave this place as soon as possible, even leaving the illusory spirit's secret realm. The broken sword in his hand suddenly released a strong dark green sword glow, forcefully creating an opening in the gray ripples. Chao Mang used all his spiritual energy to charge out of the ripples and quickly ran out the door. Tang Yuan and Lu Can also saw Chao Mang's actions, but they were trapped in the gray ripples and could not think of a way to escape, so how could they care about Chao Mang? They could only watch as Chao Mang ran away. Chao Mang had one foot out the door and his heart was filled with joy. However, he suddenly heard the sound of thunder and several bolts of blue lightning fell down on him. How could Chao Mang have imagined that there was still a violent thunderstorm waiting for him outside the door? The protective spiritual energy on his body was instantly torn apart under the rolling thunder, and several thunderbolts struck down without any resistance. Chao Mang's body was instantly charred from the outside and tender from the inside. The lightning entered his body, madly destroying his flesh and meridians. He opened his mouth and coughed out a mouthful of blood mixed with bits of his internal organs. He didn't have time to panic. Only now did he see that a lightning formation with a radius of several meters had been set up in the main hall. Specks of lightning flickered, and bolts of lightning rumbled. It was extremely gorgeous, and it lit up the entire main hall. He also saw a figure standing in the center of the lightning array. However, the figure's face could not be seen clearly under the cover of the lightning. This person was naturally Leng Shiqi. What he was using now was a rank 3 spiritual skill, Lightning Annihilation Formation. Although this lightning destruction array was only a rank 3 spiritual skill, its power was not much weaker than a rank 4 spiritual skill. Its biggest flaw was that it required a certain amount of time to set up the lightning destruction array, and it could not be moved. In other words, it was very limited. Fortunately, Chao Mang and the other two had been focused on searching for treasures in the side hall, so Leng Shiqi had had time to set up the lightning destruction array. Now that the array was set up, just a few thunderbolts were enough to seriously injure Chao Mang. Chao Mang finally understood that there had been a person following behind them all this time. His eyes flickered. He knew that he was already injured, and now that the evil energy in his body was wreaking havoc and the lightning was wreaking havoc, he was definitely not a match for the other. Brother, if you want nothing more than the treasures in this main hall, I can offer them all to you. I can even give you my mustard seed bag in exchange for my life. In his view, Tang Yuan and Lu Can, who were still in the side hall, could not be trapped forever. They would come out sooner or later. He only needed to delay them, and when the three of them joined forces, it would be time for them to counterattack. However, what answered him was a giant ice sword exuding an extremely cold aura. Chow Mang's expression finally changed. The other party was not even willing to say a word. Even now, he could still feel a trace of the aura of death. No, I cannot die. When I get out, I will soar. Chow Mang roared inside. Perhaps the threat of death had stimulated his latent power. The broken sword suddenly exploded with a sword energy not to be outdone by the giant ice sword. The sword energy and the giant ice sword collided fiercely. In an instant, the sword energy shattered, and the ice shattered. This exchange was actually evenly matched. However, at this time, the lightning destruction array once again formed multiple bolts of lightning and struck down. Chow Mang wanted to dodge, but his spirit power had long been depleted from the fierce battle. His body had been ravaged by the evil energy and lightning. He did not have the strength to dodge. The lightning once again swallowed Chow Mang. However, Ling Shiqi was still not reassured. His 5 fingers shot out 5 fire spears. Chow Mang was completely turned to charcoal under the lightning and fire. Then a green light that only Ling Shiqi could see entered his body. Ling Shiqi was not happy at all. His eyes focused and he secretly said, "They should come out now." The evil heavenly morning curse was a 4th-level spiritual skill and it could attack both the physical body and the mind. It was indeed a very strong spiritual skill. However, it had a flaw that could not be considered a flaw. That was that the evil heavenly morning curse did not have a strong killing power. It could erode your body and torture your mind, but it was very hard for it to kill people. So, Ling Shiqi did not think that a single evil heavenly morning curse could take care of Tang Yuan and Lu Can. In fact, it was indeed like this. Tang Yuan and Lu Can in the side hall gradually found a way to deal with the evil heavenly morning curse. Moreover, Ling Shiqi could not control the evil heavenly morning curse while fighting Chow Mang, so the two of them escaped before Chow Mang died. Even if they escaped, they still had to suppress the evil energy in their bodies, so they were not in a rush to come out. At the same time, they could hear the intense fighting outside. No matter what, Chow Mang was still a spirit cultivator in the early stage of the spirit pulse realm. If he died here, it would not be good for them to rashly go out. Lu Can had an anxious expression as he asked, "Brother Tang, what should we do?" Tang Yuan thought for a bit and said, "The person outside should be a spirit cultivator. He has already laid down a spiritual array outside, we cannot charge out. Let's wait and see. If he dares to come in, we will use all our strength to kill him. If he doesn't come in, it's also good. We will just wait here to recover our spiritual energy. Someone will come here sooner or later. Brother Tang is right. A spirit cultivator in the 4th stage of the sky realm is not easy to deal with." Chapter 245. What Tang Yuan said was also what Ling Shiqi was having a headache about. The lightning destruction array he set up could not be moved, and he had to expend spirit energy at all times. If the two of them hid and did not come out, he could not maintain the lightning destruction array forever. But without the support of the lightning destruction array, he did not have the confidence to kill the two of them. If one of them escaped, they would leak information about him. When he thought about this, Ling Shiqi's eyes turned and he said softly, "I was too greedy. Since I already killed Chow Mang, he alone has the resources of 3 spirit pulse realm cultivators. Just this alone is already a huge profit. Moreover, the two inside have never seen my face. I'll just turn and leave." Following that, Ling Shiqi first took 3 mustard seed bags from Chow Mang's body before dispelling the lightning destruction array and running out of the hall. Tang Yuan and Lu Can were both stunned. They also heard Ling Shiqi's words and remembered that all the valuable items were on Chow Mang's body. After the other party killed Chow Mang, not only did he obtain the accumulated resources of the 3 spirit pulse realm cultivators, he also obtained a divine illusion spirit stone, a powerful broken sword, and the treasure that Chow Mang had just discovered in the side hall. Now that the other party had run away with so many resources, they were still hiding here like idiots. Tang Yuan and Lu Can's faces were as black as an iron pot. Tang Yuan said hatefully, "Damn it, we were tricked by that person." After he finished speaking, he walked out of the side hall. Lu Can thought of something and opened his mouth to say, "Is the other party purposely luring them out?" But seeing that Tang Yuan had already walked out, he swallowed his words back down. The two of them returned to the main hall and immediately saw Chow Mang's charred corpse. Tang Yuan sneered, "Humph, if you had handed over the treasure earlier, the three of us could have killed Luo Yi together. Why would we be afraid of this person? You wouldn't have ended up like this." "Serves you right." Lu Can first looked around and found nothing out of the ordinary before asking, "Brother Tang, where are we going next?" Tang Yuan said with a gloomy face, "Sigh, what bad luck. After fighting for half a day, we didn't get anything. Let's go and meet up with our fellow disciples first. The more people there are, the more confidence we have." The two of them walked out of the hall side by side. However, what neither of them expected was that there was a devilish figure standing upside down outside the hall. This figure was wearing a set of ferocious black armor. There were traces of blood flowing on the armor, but he had a pair of white eyes. His eyes were filled with boundless killing intent as he stared at Tang Yuan and Lu Can. Tang Yuan and Lu Can were also experienced spirit cultivator. Their bodies stopped at the same time and became vigilant. It was obvious that they had also sensed the killing intent. But what they didn't notice was that the killing intent was coming from above. Ling Shiqi didn't actually leave after he removed the lightning destruction array. Instead, he hid here and waited for the two of them. Rolling his eyes, the two of them came out not long after. He activated his magical beast battle pattern armor and was ready to attack. At this moment, Ling Shiqi finally waited for the best opportunity. He clenched his right hand into a fist and his left hand into a palm. A fist and a palm fell at the same time. When the fist came out, it actually had the power of a ferocious tiger roaring through the forest. When the palm came out, the devil flames burned and melted everything. Tang Yuan and Lu Can suddenly raised their heads and saw the fist and palm falling. They were shocked and at the same time, they also retaliated with a fist and a palm. Tang Yuan's fist was wrapped in a strong yellow brilliance and was as heavy as Mount Tai. Lu Can's palm was like the cold winter wind, causing people to feel as if they were being cut by a knife. The two fists and two palms collided head-on. With the three of them as the center, a violent spirit energy fluctuation was set off within a radius of 100 feet. Even the jade pillars in front of the hall were broken and collapsed. The ferocious tiger treading wave fist's gray tiger phantom completely suppressed Tang Yuan. It seemed like the tiger was the king of the mountain. As for the six yang poison fire palm and Lu Can's palm energy, the devil flames and cold wind intertwined and burst out with ear-piercing sounds. However, the devil flames were still 10 feet higher. These two spirit pulse stage cultivators were actually being suppressed by Ling Shiqi alone. The ground beneath their feet cracked inch by inch and their faces became abnormally pale. Even their feet were sinking into the ground. At the same time, an unbelievable thought appeared in their minds. Who is this person? He was clearly also at the early stage of the spirit pulse stage and was only at the first level of the spirit pulse stage. Why was his strength stronger than the two of them combined? They definitely did not know that Ling Shiqi's spirit energy was a mutated spirit energy that had fused devil and demonic spirit energy into one. Just based on his spirit energy foundation, it was comparable to the third level of the spirit pulse stage. Tang Yuan endured the ferocious tiger treading wave fist and said with difficulty, "Sir, we have no enmity with each other. Why do we have to fight? Moreover, the two of us did not find anything. However, there was a spirit caster that plundered a large amount of treasures and even divine fantasy spirit stones." When Ling Shiqi heard this, he sneered in his heart. Tang Yuan did not know that the spirit caster he was talking about was actually Ling Shiqi. Boom boom, with a series of explosions, Tang Yuan and Lu Can both used their spirit energy to fight the enemy. the evil energy in their bodies began to wreak havoc again. They could no longer hold on and were forced back by Ling Shiqi, creating a long trench on the ground. Blood flowed out from the corners of their mouths and their clothes were tattered. Especially Lu Kan, who was trembling from the burning of the poisonous flames. On the other hand, Ling Shiqi's armor only had a few cracks. The difference in strength was obvious. Ling Shiqi did not show any mercy. He held the azure rain saber in his hand but did not unsheath it. He slowly walked over with the saber. He wanted to use this opportunity to try to merge the saber drawing technique with the full moon swift slash. Tang Yuan and Lu Kan's faces were ashen. They both had their own trump cards, but they used them when they teamed up to kill Luo Yi. Now that they were in danger, they were at their wits' end. Tang Yuan's heart moved. He punched out again, but this time the target was not Ling Shiqi, but Lu Kan who was beside him. This punch did not have much power, but it sent Lu Kan's body flying in the direction of Ling Shiqi, while Tang Yuan ran down the mountain with all his strength. Lu Kan never dreamed that he would encounter the same situation as Luo Yi and be betrayed by his own sect. When he saw this scene, Ling Shiqi was delighted in his heart instead. Originally, if the two of them were to join forces and fight to the death, then he would have to exert all his strength to be able to kill both of them. Now, a head was directly delivered to him. Wasn't that wonderful? Lu Kan, who was sent flying in the air, had no room to fight back. Ling Shiqi's figure suddenly accelerated and arrived in front of Lu Kan in an instant. Then, an extremely thin but dazzling saber light flashed and disappeared. As for Lu Kan's head, it was chopped off cleanly. Ling Shiqi murmured, almost. Then, his gaze locked onto Tang Yuan's back, and he took out a pale golden longbow. Chapter 246. The bow Ling Shiqi took out was a level 3 spiritual weapon, the Golden Heart Bow. This was the prize he won from the lottery in the demonic Miasma mountain range. Unfortunately, it did not come with a bow and arrow. However, Ling Shiqi did not need a bow and arrow. He held the bow in his left hand and opened the fingers of his right hand. In an instant, 5 arrows condensed from demonic energy appeared in his hand. This was a spiritual technique that he had not used in a long time, the demonic weapon mystic technique. He pulled the bow to a full moon and 5 demonic arrows shot out. Under Ling Shiqi's control, the 5 demonic arrows did not all shoot towards Tang Yuan. 2 of them flew past Tang Yuan. Tang Yuan, who was flying at high speed, naturally heard the sound of the arrows breaking through the air behind him. He turned around and saw the 5 demonic arrows flying towards him. He immediately took out an elixir from his mustard seed bag. He struggled for a moment before swallowing the elixir in the end. Immediately, demonic energy surged out of Tang Yuan's body and his aura rose a little. Tang Yuan put his palms together and condensed a demonic seal that was half the height of a person. He pushed his palms forward and the demonic seal met Ling Shiqi's demonic arrows. The demonic seal was powerful and blocked 3 demonic arrows in a row. However, the other 2 arrows flew past the demonic seal and landed at Tang Yuan's feet. Immediately, there were 2 explosions. Tang Yuan was flipped over by the force of the explosions and the demonic seal dissipated. Ling Shiqi did not expect a few demonic arrows to kill Tang Yuan. He only needed to stop Tang Yuan. Just as the demonic arrows landed, Ling Shiqi's body floated over. He was holding a jade-colored long sword in his hand, the unpolished jade sword. He was determined to take Tang Yuan's life. When Ling Shiqi approached, his figure suddenly changed into 24 phantoms. All the phantoms stabbed at Tang Yuan from all directions with jade-colored sword rays and invisible sword energy. The sword chi and sword chi crisscrossed, leaving no room to dodge. Tang Yuan was horrified. Before the sword beams arrived, the sword energies had already arrived. Dozens of invisible meridian invading sword energies pierced through his protective spiritual energy and sealed off many of his meridians, leaving him with no chance to turn the tables. At this moment, Tang Yuan saw the sword in Ling Shiqi's hand. His eyes widened as he exclaimed, "Plain jade sword?" You're Ling Shiqi. Ling Shiqi was shocked when he heard Tang Yuan say his real name. Although he was surprised, he still wanted to keep Tang Yuan alive to get to the bottom of this. However, it was already too late. He could no longer withdraw his sword. Puff, 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 suddenly, more than 20 blood veins burst out from Tang Yuan's body. The vitality in his eyes dissipated in an instant. He couldn't be more dead. Ling Shiqi's face was gloomy as he removed the mustard seed bag from Tang Yuan's body. Although he had killed these two people and obtained what he wanted, he had also completely prevented his information from being leaked. However, he was not happy at all. It was because of Tang Yuan's words before he died. Ling Shiqi frowned and thought hard. Tang Yuan could call out my name with just the plain jade sword. That's impossible. He had indeed killed Tang Hepu and snatched the plain jade sword in front of everyone, and he had also used the dazzling blossom sword move. If Tang Yuan had recognized him as the black-clothed assassin who had killed Tang Hepu, it would have been fine. However, how could Pian Pian recognize him as Ling Shiqi? On the day of the destruction of the Golden Wing Academy, the blood-clothed pavilion had dispatched nearly 100 black-clothed assassins. How could others know that he was the one who had killed Tang Hepu? More importantly, Ling Shiqi's current body shape was completely different from that time. Moreover, his entire body was now covered with magical beast battle pattern armor, and his face could not be seen. Therefore, Tang Yuan did not recognize him by his body shape. Then how did he equate the plain jade sword and Ling Shiqi? Where did I go wrong? Ling Shiqi could not figure it out. He secretly decided that when he went out, he would find out more about this. Since Tang Yuan knew that he had killed Tang Hepu, there must be many people who knew about it. Ling Shiqi felt a little depressed. He took a deep breath and put away the plain jade sword. This sword could not be used easily anymore. Finally, he returned to the hall, picked up Liu Can's mustard seed bag, and hurried down the mountain. What was worth being happy about was that he now had 5 mustard seed bags on him. Just these 5 mustard seed bags alone were worth a lot of spiritual stones. Crash. Ling Shiqi opened up a space underground, poured out all the things in the 5 mustard seed bags, and then arranged them according to their categories. First, he piled some gold, silver, and sundries aside. These were the things with the lowest value. Then, there were all kinds of materials for refining pills. Although these things had some value, they were useless to Ling Shiqi. He simply sold them all to the system for more than 400 system coins. Then, there were pills and spiritual stones. These 5 people were all in the spirit pulse realm and were also from a spirit cultivation sect. They had a lot of spiritual stones. In total, there were more than 3,000 pieces. It could be said that Ling Shiqi had made a fortune. He finally understood why some people liked to kill others for their treasures. Money came too quickly. Among the pills, other than some common ones, what surprised Ling Shiqi the most was that he found 2 meridian opening pills in Luo Yi's mustard seed bag. At the spirit pulse realm, the most important thing was no longer spiritual power. Because no matter how much spiritual power you have, if you cannot open your spirit pulse, you will never be able to break through. And the meridian opening pill was a pill that could help open the spirit pulse. To a spirit pulse realm cultivator, this was no doubt a treasure. This was definitely a priceless pill. Ordinary spirit pulse realm cultivators would have a hard time getting it. Only spirit pulse realm cultivators like Luo Yi would be able to get it. For Ling Shiqi, who was at the first level of the spirit pulse realm, these 2 pills could help him open a spirit pulse. In other words, as long as he accumulated enough spiritual power, he could easily break through to the 2nd level of the spirit pulse realm. He carefully stored the 2 meridian opening pills in the system space and then looked at the few spirit tools on the ground. The most precious one was the dark green broken sword. Ling Shiqi looked at it carefully. This short sword was actually a level 5 spirit tool. Although the sword was broken, it was still stronger than a level 4 spirit tool. Other than that, there were a few level 2 and level 3 spirit tools. Ling Shiqi kept a dagger among them and threw the rest to the system. Finally, he picked up the silver paper and looked at it carefully. His eyes were filled with surprise. There was actually a pill formula written on this piece of silver paper. Level 6 Pill Formula, Meridian Opening Pill. Meridian Opening Pill, the name sounded very common, but its value was far above the Meridian Opening Pill. This was a pill that could open the Spirit Pulse realm, a pill that Spirit Pulse realm cultivators yearned for even in their dreams. And with the pill formula, it meant that as long as he could find a capable alchemist, he could refine large amounts of Meridian Opening Pills. This meant that not only could his cultivation increase by leaps and bounds, it would also bring him endless wealth. Ling Shiqi took a deep breath and carefully touched the silver paper. After a while, he reluctantly stored it in the system space. The only thing left was the Divine Illusion Spirit Stone. As for cultivation techniques and spiritual skills, there was not a single one. He was already used to it. No one would carry that kind of thing with them. Of course, it was safest to keep it in his mind. Other than that, he also absorbed a portion of Chao Mang, Tang Yuan and Lu Can's spiritual power. This allowed his body's strength and spiritual power to increase. It could be considered an additional harvest. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.